All right, boom. In the building today, we have someone, in my opinion, with an absolutely immense story and someone who does an incredible job right now helping others to tell their story sort of thing. We have Mr. Shaun Attwood in the building today. How are we doing today, you right?
Fantastic, Mo. It is an absolute honour to be on DJ Vlad's channel.
Welcome. Yeah, I want to welcome you to the platform as well. And like I said, like incredible. Like, I'm a fan myself. I follow you a lot, and yeah, you're doing an amazing job at the minute. But obviously, the story is a conversation in itself, which we're obviously going to get into. Now, as far as your story, pretty much, I guess if someone said they had a story, you're pretty much the person that's like holding my beer, basically, and it's like we kind of take it to a whole new level when we're dealing with yourself, sort of thing.
Yeah, my audiobooks, there's 3 of them. It's a trilogy, it's 30 hours long, so it's like 3 Netflix series.
Yeah.
You got Party Time, you got Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail,
Right.
and prison and what happens after.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into all that anyway. So if we could take it all the way back and you know, all the way back to like sort of birth, and you told me your earliest memories of childhood.
Earliest memories of childhood?
Yeah, that you can remember, yeah.
My parents moved to America when I was a kid, actually, into Chicago for a couple of years. And I remember like the temperature being different and the accents, but my mum didn't like it.
Oh yeah?
And I think it was my mum's idea for my dad to come back. Otherwise I would have grown up in America.
Right.
Yeah, so they were only out there for a couple of years.
Okay.
I then started to visit my aunts as a teenager. And that's how I fell in love with Arizona, because when the plane comes in, you see all the swimming pools in the backyards and they hear the English accent and they roll out the red carpet. And my aunt changed my date of birth in my passport when I was 16, took me out nightclubbing, and she's introducing me to all these beautiful American women as Paul McCartney's nephew.
Oh, wow.
So I've just come from this little chemical manufacturing town up north.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I've gone from being a nobody to Paul McCartney's nephew, getting all this attention. I'm thinking, wow.
Crazy.
When I finish at university, I want some of this. And that's what I did.
Right.
That's what I did.
And just to discuss, pretty much to discuss you as a student. Now, you was very like sort of big on economics. Like that's something that you sort of pursued. And there wasn't much of you that I guess chose economics. It was just you and a couple others in the actual class.
That's correct.
Yeah.
In my school in Widnes, Cheshire, I had this teacher called Mr. Dillon.
Right.
And I think about half a dozen of us or less chose economics. So he's got me reading the Financial Times, explaining all the columns, the numbers, the stock market stuff. And there was Maggie Thatcher was the Prime Minister back then.
Right.
And she was privatising British Telecom, and I saw the advertisements for it. And I went to my parents. I said, "Can I get 50 quid to invest in the stock market?" And they were like, "Bugger off," because they were Labour. They were like, "Bugger off!
Right.
We don't support Maggie.
Like,
We don't support Maggie Thatcher. We're not Tories like your nan." My nan, light bulb, run down to my nan's house because she's a Tory. I'm like, "Nan, can I get 50 quid to invest in British Telecom?"
And how old were you, not to cut you off?
I think I was about 16.
Right. So,
And I'd already been following the stock market now for a couple of years since I was 14. Gone down the library, ordered dozens of books on the subject. My nan gave me 50 quid. I think it was 50 pence on the first day of dealings, the shares, and they opened like around £1.
Right.
So it doubled like that. I was like, yeah, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
I'm hooked. Then I'm telling all my mates, I'm going to go to America, make $1 million, fly you guys over.
Yeah.
That was my dream, and that's what I did.
That's crazy. So, I mean, you're 16 years old and you're talking about stock markets pretty much. Like, it's not normal, I guess, for someone that age.
We had an area at the top of my town, Widnes, called Peck's Hill, and there was a quarry. So we would sneak through the iron railing and sit on this tree overlooking the quarry called the Thinking Tree. So it was me, my best mate Wildman, R.I.P. Wildman,
R.I.P. Wildman, yeah.
and his cousin Hammy. And on that tree, we would plan our lives, and I would tell them, I'm going to go to America and make $1 million, fly you guys over.
I respect that.
Wildman, he was saying he was going to end up in prison for the rest of his life because he had red dots in his head telling him to hurt people. And Hammy was like, asking us what our plans were. And we're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fly Wildman over to America. He's not going to go to prison. He's going to end up a wrestler. He's going to be wrestled like Andre the Giant and The Undertaker and all these guys. That was my idealistic notion. when I was a teenager.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So moving on just a little bit, you furthered your education into Liverpool University.
Yeah.
And you studied, I guess, business as well as economics and stuff.
Yeah, my economics professor was Sir Patrick Minford, Maggie Thatcher's chief economic advisor at that time.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so he was actually like the Prime Minister's sort of aide when it comes to economics, like telling us strategies and stuff.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And but as far as your influences, I guess at some point in your youth or somewhere down the line, you watched Wall Street, I guess, with
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Gordon Gekko, greed is good. We will buy these companies out and sack everybody and strip all their assets and make millions and drive around in limos with hookers snorting cocaine.
Yeah.
And that became my false idol.
So was it the one with Michael Douglas? Or?
Yes.
All right. So that one's called Wolf of Wall Street.
No. Oh shit! I'm getting confused. Am I?
Yeah.
Wall Street.
It's called Wall Street, right?
It's just Wall Street.
Yeah, I think so.
Wolf of Wall Street came later.
It's from
Did I say Wolf of Wall Street earlier?
Yeah.
Sorry, Wall Street.
Wall Street, right? Yeah.
Wall Street.
So you saw that, and that was a turning point for you, like that.
That was like, I gotta have some of that.
Yeah.
I gotta have some of that. I realized because my idols were people like George Soros, Michael Milken.
Okay.
Because these guys had filed the biggest incomes ever in the history of tax returns in America.
Yes.
And they were all stock market guys.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, the amount of money you can make in the stock market is unlimited. Look, I'm not like this now. I'm a yoga man now. I believe in karma. I've learned my lessons. I'm not trying to like glamorize this, but I'm just trying to portray where my mind frame was as a teenager. I was dazzled. Coming from a industrial, working class northern town, I was dazzled that people could get that wealthy through the stock market.
Definitely.
That was my path.
Yeah, for sure. And there was a key slogan, I guess, in the film where Michael Douglas expressed that greed is good.
Greed is good.
Yeah, and that pretty much stuck with you, sort of thing. Like,
and my aunt as well was my mentor, and she was, got to phrase this very carefully, a hard-headed businesswoman.
Right.
So my other motto was, it's fuck or be fucked in the business world.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
As indoctrinated by my aunt.
So your aunt was involved in business. Like what?
I can't describe
right.
the extent of what she was involved in.
Yeah.
But she was the one who changed my date of birth in my passport when I was 16 to 21.
Right.
And my parents weren't happy about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Early felonies,
Oh, crazy. Yeah. Crazy. And cool. So you graduated from university.
I sat my finals coming down off ecstasy with beeps and beats just going beep, 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 beep in my brain. But I still managed to get honours degree in business studies.
Nice.
Yeah.
And was it imminent as far as your travels to America after you graduate?
I think I went to the Glastonbury Festival first.
As you do.
I remember being on LSD, trying to find my car in the nighttime so I could go to sleep in it. I was just walking around high on LSD.
Right.
But I got to see some of the early idols I had in the rave scene, like I think it was Guru Josh, Adamski, way before your time. I don't know if you're familiar with any of these people.
Yeah, I can't say
Infinity
I know them.
Project was remixed actually when I got out of prison back in 2007, 2008. They were playing it when I got back to the UK. But yeah, so those guys were my early influences, and it was that scene that became my religion while I was doing my degree. Every weekend I was in Manchester. It was called Manchester back then.
Right.
At clubs like the Thunderdome, the Conspiracy, sometimes the Hacienda, and then Liverpool, the State, or the Toxteth Scrapyard, or Quadrant Park. And I lived the whole week, I just lived to go raving all weekend. And
I mean, you're a young man, so obviously, you want to exercise certain, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So I swore to myself, when I go to America and make this million in the stock market, I'm going to transfer the UK rave scene to Arizona. That was my goal. It took me a while to contribute, but yeah.
So there was no rave scene over there at the time?
When I got to America, they were playing like dance music, like it was still a bit like Prince and Michael Jackson.
What's that? I don't know.
They were so behind.
Right.
The mainstream channels in America varied from country and western to like Metallica, to like dance music, but like UB40 and Prince and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So the scene hadn't kicked off at all.
Right.
I managed to click up through some local DJs, and they were fascinated by what I was telling them. I had all these tapes I'd recorded, cassette tapes of like the 808 State Show in Manchester.
Okay.
And they were like, give me your tapes. And they were learning it. These DJs have become huge international phenomenons in the rave scene since I first met them. But I clicked up with that crew in the beginning, and that's how it began.
Right.
Through the gay bar, that's it. Through the gay bar, that's where I met them.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was called the Silver Dollar Club in Arizona. Yeah.
So eventually you ended up in America, and then 91, and one of your initial jobs was for a firm. Now, as far as what you wanted to be, I guess because you went into stockbrokering, but that's not what you wanted to do initially, right?
Correct. You've done good research.
I mean, we have to over here, you know. we got to do it, right? Yeah. So
I wanted to be an investment analyst.
Right, but obviously that job wasn't really around, sort of.
It's more in New York. So I get to Arizona and I'm thinking, just get your foot in the door. And in Arizona, there's a lot of money. Paradise Valley, Sun City. There's a lot of stockbrokers. So I just sent my resume right away to like 30 stockbrokers.
Right.
And got offered opportunity interview quite quickly.
Sweet. So initially, the first firm that you actually worked for, I guess they had an association with the Mafia or something you mentioned?
Yeah, it was a penny stock outfit. I didn't understand that at the time. Proper Wolf of Wall Street style. And he was like a Mafia Don, the boss of this firm.
Yeah.
And he's interviewing me, and I need to make money fast because I'm just fresh. You know, I've got no money. I'm living off my student credit cards. He says the job's commission only. I'm like, I need to start work fast. You got to do the test, the Series 7. Put me in for it. No, you got to do the classes. How long is it going to take me to do the classes? Oh, months. I said, well, let's skip the classes. Just put me in for the test. We can't skip the classes. You've got to do the classes. I'll go and get the book. So he goes and gets the book. The book's this big, but I flick through it. It's all multiple choice questions.
Sweet.
I've just done a business studies degree at Liverpool University where it's all like pages and pages of calculus that you got to memorize.
Yeah.
And you got these rinky-dink multiple choice questions. And he goes, I said, this looks easy. He's like, oh, well, look at the options section. Trading options. I've been trading options during the breakout of the first Gulf War. So I already knew it. So I said, put me in right away. And he's looking at me now. He's got this look on his face, like this Mafia Don look. And he's like, I'll put you in for it. There's something about you. I'm going to put you in for it. But I don't like it when people let me down.
Wow.
Like implying bad things can happen.
But I make you offer, you can't refuse.
But I aced it. Yeah, and it took off from there.
So this role, I guess, or all the roles that you took were pretty much commission-based.
Yes.
And I guess you wasn't feeling that place, like something about it, I guess, didn't agree with yourself, so you...
They were pushing penny stocks. So if you've watched Wolf of Wall Street,
Definitely.
It was like very mercenary outfit. They got this big board on the wall. They got all the brokers, the rookies sat in quads. The high producers are in offices at the back. They bring in these like sales people, like heavy hitters from these other firms. They look like they're high on crystal meth or cocaine. They're like foaming at the mouth and they're screaming at us.
Yeah.
You're only as big as your numbers are on this board for the month. Smiling brokers make the most money. Pacing brokers make the most money. We had to have mirrors on our desks. We had to have 24-foot curly cords. All the brokers are pacing up and down, up and down, up and down. And he's like, if you're calling your girlfriends, if you're calling your wives, other brokers are calling your clients. Honestly, people were shitting themselves. Shitting themselves. He would hire 10, 20 people a month. And he'd be like, I had to hire 20 people a month, throw them against the wall and see how many stick. And the ones that didn't stick, we cannibalized their clients.
Fucking hell.
There was a broker on my quad and he didn't put me with the rookies because he knew I had a bit of knowledge. He put me at the back with a quad called the criminal quad. One of them was an ex-Vietnam vet who would like have flashbacks and just start fucking kung fu kicking the air around us. Another one had been in prison for a couple of years. I think he got in a bar fight or something. And he told his clients the 2 years he'd been fighting cancer in hospital and he's back now. And he even got lists of cancer patients and called them to sympathize through his suffering through cancer. I know this sounds terrible, but I'm just giving you a reality.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other one was like a very icy salesman, a bottle of gin or vodka in his little suitcase at all times. But those guys schooled me.
Right.
They schooled me. And the cannibalization was such. The boss, right, the Mafia guy, his old boss was actually working in our office, but he'd come down the ranks. And he had a huge client book,
Yeah.
but he wasn't that big on the board for the month. So there was a plot to get rid of him and cannibalize his client book.
Okay.
So the boss calls him into the office. He's firing the guy. The boss gives the nod to the criminal quad. We start ransacking his files, taking all of his client book.
My
He
Lord.
tries to break free, get out of the office. Security guard grabs him. The criminal quad, not only are they stealing his clients, he's got a packed lunchbox. They're eating his packed lunch while they take. This is how ruthless.
That's cutthroat.
This is how ruthless stockbroking is. This was how I got broke into the business world fresh out of uni. These guys are smoking. I mean, they're snorting crystal meth off their desks. They've got biker gangs bringing it to the office. They've got strippers and escorts coming up. If there's any kind of celebration, there's a limo full of strippers downstairs to take us to the strip club. So I'm thinking, this is what the business world is like, you know?
So it was literally like a real life Wolf of Wall Street. You going into work sort of thing.
All the way through Wolf of Wall Street,
Yeah.
I was having flashbacks. Yeah, exactly. He was spot on.
Incredible.
Yeah.
At some point, you got really good at the stockbrokering thing, and I guess 5 years, pretty much into you actually doing it, you became sort of the big fish.
Yeah, within so many months, I was wise that I was in a penny stock outfit. I partnered up with another guy who's actually contacted me after many years recently. I'm probably going to interview him soon. And he was featured in the Locked Up Abroad episode.
Right, yeah. On television, basically.
Yeah. Where I partner up with him. I think they called him Matt in that. So we figure out what we need to do is we'll stay late one night, photocopy the entire client books of the office so that when we bail and they start to cannibalize our clients, we've got all their clients. That's exactly what we did. And we were sending them newspaper articles saying, look, this is a penny stock outfit. They're chopping you out, out of all these commissions, hidden commissions that you can't see. Come with us. And that's how we built them with, stable brokerages, doing the right thing for our clients, making money for them. And it built up from there. I went through 3 or 4 different brokerages that were bought out and stuff to the point where I was with a company in the end. And I became the top producing broker. Yeah. Grossing about $500,000 a year.
$500,000.
Yeah. And but that's what led to me ditching that career and going full time into the rave ecstasy.
So, I mean, when you're making this much money, have they got like 2 limos full of strippers for you? Like, what's happening with you? Like,
they had multiple limos full of strippers for all of us for the office whenever there was anything, any kind of celebration. Yeah. But sadly, a lot of what I did was fueled by crystal meth. Right. Yeah, because when I got on crystal meth, it increased my aggression. And in the beginning, you feel superhuman. So instead of getting on the phone and asking the clients for 10K, I get on the phone and ask them for 100K and maybe they send me 50. And that's what made my commissions go through the roof. Sick. And my desk was totally messy. And the boss was very strict about messy desks. And he'd go through the office and he'd be like, tidy your desk up, tidy your desk up, tidy your desk up. He'd get to my desk, he'd be like, Shaun, whatever you're doing, it's working. Just leave your desk like that. So I'd be able to come in and out of the office whenever I want. Yeah. Wasn't having to show up for the 6 o'clock in the morning sales meeting. But my ego was starting to build, yeah, and eventually it becomes as big as the Grand Canyon, and that's sows the seeds of my downfall. Right. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So now you gave him a mention earlier on, but obviously rest in peace to Peter, aka Wildman, and Wildman. From what I've seen as far as your material, he's a pretty serious guy. Like he's someone you can look at. Obviously, God bless, but looking at him, he's serious. So as far as you being in Arizona, there was an instance where you actually flew him out and you rented a place for him. Now, talk to me about the occasion when you knocked on the door and you found, Mexicans in there. That sort of thing.
All right, just a bit of background then for people watching this who are not familiar with Wildman. Wildman, my best friend from childhood. He grew massive as a teenager. Yeah. Picks a school teacher up, puts him in the bin. Teachers are then so scared of him, they've got him outside raking leaves with the caretaker. And that was just when he was a kid. Yeah. Right. So he's got red dots in his head, tell him to hurt people. I promised him on the thinking tree, gonna fly you out to America, Peter, get you a job as a wrestler, I'm idealist. He ends up in prison like he predicted.
Right.
Yeah, so he's in prison, and I'm working away diligently in the stock market for about 4 or 5 years. He gets out of prison. By now, I'm making a lot of money, and I follow through with my promise to fly him out.
Sick.
So I get him a place by the George and Dragon British pub in Central Phoenix. It's like a house, but it's a shared house. So he's got his section of it. And I'm hoping he's just going to go to the George and Dragon pub and have some Guinnesses with the expats and behave himself. Within months, me and my girlfriend go over there and we knock on the door. Bunch of Mexicans answer the door. Where's Peter? They're looking at us like, who the F's Peter? I'm like, Peter, I put him here, he lives here. We're from England. There's no Peter here.
Crazy.
I'm like, there's got to be a Peter here. So I'm getting into it with them, and there's a bunch of Mexicans, and there's a Colombian at the back of them, which I later learn. Anyway, they pull guns out. This is Central Phoenix. There's a lot of dealers, blah, blah, blah. So me and my girlfriend at the time start backpedaling away from the door. Mm-hmm. Peter just bounces across the road. He's like, oh, it's okay, Shaun. I'm like, it's not okay. We could just got effing shot.
Like literally.
They're the local crack dealers.
Right.
They're buzzing because I can do $100 crack rock in one breath. They're giving me as much free crack as I want. They like to move around a lot. So I've let them stay in there for now. I'm in their place over the street. The guy at the back, he's the Colombian guy who's running it.
Crazy.
And he wants to invest in the stock market. And he's looking at me like he's done me the biggest favor in the world. And I'm like, but that was just the beginning of that place.
That is fucking
It ends in a
hilarious.
corpse on the doorstep.
Wow. So there was a corpse, I guess.
That's how it ended.
Yeah.
So I'm in the stock market, in the office, doing my thing. I get a call from my aunt. Peter's house is headline news. There's been...
And this is your aunt who's in America already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter's house is headline news right now.
Is this the same one that you're renting, pretty much?
Yes, that house.
Yeah, that house.
Yeah. It's headline news. There's yellow tape all around it. Someone's dead. It might be Peter. You need to get your ass up there.
Fucking hell.
So I was a bit twacked out on drugs when this news comes in. I'm not thinking very rationally, but I jump in my car, speed up there. There's camera crews. There's yellow tape. There's cop cars everywhere. I've got drugs in the car. I think this is not a good scene. I go back to work. It's on my mind all day. I go back in the afternoon because it's niggling away at me. So when I get back there, everyone's gone. I go in. There's blood on the step. I go in and Peter is sat there with a homicide detective.
Right.
Yeah, which I got one of the most graphic stories in my life out of this homicide detective. I don't know if you got time to hear that later on, but it's insane. It's about a serial killer. So, they're looking at me. Who are you? I'm like, I'm with him. I rent this place for him. Give him my business card. Blah blah blah. They've took Peter down. They've done gunpowder tests on him and all that. So I give the cop my details. The cop goes. I'm like, what's going on, Peter? What's happened? So he says a couple came over looking to buy crack. The woman, they say, look, the dealers are back over the road now. So the woman goes over the road to get the crack. The man stays with Peter. Peter's never seen a gun. The man's got a gun. So he gets his gun out, starts demonstrating the gun. And Peter's saying, I'm from England. I've never seen a gun before.
Yeah.
How'd you shoot it? And the guy goes, well, the safety's on. I'll show you how to shoot it. And he pulls the trigger and shoots himself in the head.
What the fuck?
Shoots himself in the head and falls dead on the step right in front of Peter.
Somewhat of a suicide sort of thing.
Drugs were involved.
Oh, right, yeah.
When people are on drugs, sometimes, your decision-making processes are a bit scrambled.
Yeah.
I have no idea what actually happened. All the gunpowder tests were run. He'd shot himself. What was going on in his head? There's no way to know what was going on in his head if he was on, what drugs he was on and what he was thinking. Maybe he thought the safety was on and the safety wasn't on. But that apartment ended there.
Yeah. So how long was Wildman staying there? before that incident happened, would you say?
It was within a matter of months. There was
months.
multiple incidences.
Yeah, but that was the one that actually was like...
That was the one that finished it.
Yeah.
I got there one time, and he was dropping a TV on the head of his neighbour and his neighbour's friend. He was just picking the TV up, dropping it on one's head, picking the TV up, dropping it on the other's head, picking it up again, dropping it on the other's head, and his ankle for some reason was out here. I'm like, Peter, what are you doing? He goes, well, you put me in a house with these heroin users, and I've warned them not to leave their needles out. And they left the needles in the bathroom, and I almost got one stuck in my skin.
Fucking hell.
So I'm teaching them a lesson. And I said, well, what's happened to your ankle? He goes, well, I accidentally dropped the TV. I was trying to drop it on one of the heads, and I accidentally dropped it on my ankle. His ankle was this big.
Fucking hell.
And I was like, you got to go to hospital. He hated hospitals. He said he was self-healing.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. But after that, he ends up on the west side, right?
So you move him to another house, I guess.
Yeah. So there's two women that are from the drug community that he already knows that are living on the west side.
All right.
And one of them's got a boyfriend or a roommate who's a big steroid head. He's got long, blonde Chippendale hair and a cowboy hat. And he's a bouncer, a doorman at a nightclub on Van Buren and thinks he's a tough guy.
Right.
Man. This one doesn't even last long enough for the check to be cashed on the deposit for the place. What happens here is I go up there, meet the rental office people, sign on it off for him. He's on the lease. Next day, I get a call. Peter's been evicted. Why has he been evicted? He beat his roommate up. I said, well, how do you know he beat his roommate up?
As you do, I guess. So.
What evidence is there that he beat his roommate up?
Yeah.
She said that the roommate was seen fleeing for his life in the middle of the night through the apartment complex by multiple residents with plasterboard powder all over his face and head. And there was multiple human head-sized holes in the walls. So fortunately, he did it so fast I was able to stop the check.
Crazy.
So that didn't get cashed.
Right.
But the women who he was living with, one of them had a boyfriend in Tempe, Arizona, the university area, who was behind on the rent, and he moved in with him. That apartment complex, Rancho Murrieta, it's a massive, multiple buildings within the complex, and it is that complex where the criminal enterprise begins. The foundation of it. I would have never have met the Mafia characters that Wildman buddied up with without him, being able to do that.
Right.
And it was through that everything just got started from Rancho Murrieta.
Yeah. So just to sort of summarize, so now Wildman has been moved into this new place.
Yes.
And this is what you regard as like the party central sort of thing.
Yes,
it's all,
Tempe, Arizona.
It's all going off here pretty much, isn't it?
Yes.
And I just want to bring to your attention a time when you mentioned you could only acquire a certain amount of e-pills.
Yeah.
So there weren't a lot going around. There was about, I guess, 15 or so at the most or something.
People don't understand what it was like back then, man, because they say, E's everywhere now. It's only £1 a pill.
Yeah.
Back then, it was scarce to get pure E. It was coming from LA. We were getting it from Holland and then bouncing it back over to AZ. And it was going for $25 to $30 a pill in the clubs. So we could get up to 50 pills, 100 pills maybe from the local dealers. That's all they would get at a time from LA.
Yeah.
And Acid Joey, RIP Acid Joey.
RIP.
He was my local supplier back then. Navajo guy, stocky.
Native American.
Always on ketamine and acid and stuff. And he was the best dancer you could ever see.
Really?
The reason I spotted him was I was at a underground party called Chupa in an industrial studio in downtown Phoenix, and there was a circle of people watching this guy dance.
No way.
And it was Acid Joey doing all this. He would sometimes get on the dance floor and he would be dancing through the whole dance floor, mimicking loading up a shotgun and just shooting all the dancers around him. Oh, he was such a badass. Yeah, I had so much fun with Acid Joey.
Yeah.
But he was found dead in his swimming pool with all of his clothes on. That was after, I think that was during while I was in prison.
Crazy.
So that's what happened to my homie Joey.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Joey, I realised if he could dance that good, he must have been on pure stuff. So I got talking to him early on for pills, and he was my local supplier. Yeah.
So going back to so you can only acquire a certain amount of pills. So you being someone of a business background, your antennas are pretty much tweaking at this point, saying, you know what? If someone managed to get more than what we can actually get, they'll make a killing, to say the least. Like
arbitrage opportunity.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So you got to thinking, and there was an occasion, I guess, where a deal was set up with someone in LA for you to purchase 1,000 pills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about this occasion.
All right, I'm going to call this person Sol.
Right.
A lot of my names have got to be changed for legal reasons.
Okay.
When you write books and stuff, they make you do that.
Right.
So I arranged to buy, I think it's 1,000 pills through Sol. He's in West Hollywood. And 2 carloads of us go out there. Now, this was before I knew any protocol about drug smuggling. This is going to sound ridiculous.
So you're just a pure opportunist at this point. You're like, I can get it. Yeah.
I've got twin turbo Mazda RX-7, like out of Fast and Furious.
Right.
I've got a radar detector on the windshield so that it'll beep if there's speed traps. I've got like a gun under the seat. I've got Wildman with me. It's a first seat. There's a reason I'm telling you that in a minute.
Yeah.
So we blast out there at warp speed, right? 2 carloads of us. The other carload, it's got Seth, and Seth is dead as well. He was very close to me.
God bless.
He hammered the drugs. He was a stockbroker too. Right. But after a couple of weeks of hanging out with Wildman, he got enraged one day at our boss, picked the computer up in the stockbrokerage and threw it at our boss.
No way.
And he was fired, and he ended up collecting crack debts with Wildman in Central Phoenix for the crack boss. So yeah, Wildman's called that purification. Anyway, 2 carloads of us are off to LA.
Yeah.
This guy keeps us waiting for hours, man, in West Hollywood.
Right.
Wildman's like just fuming, red dots kicking in. If Wildman's going to do some damage, one of his eyebrows goes vertical.
Yeah.
One's horizontal and one's vertical. You knew he was going to kick off whenever that happened.
Yeah.
Red dots are kicking in. Oh, red dots. I'm gonna just, when this guy shows up, I'm just gonna boot his door down and take his shit. I'm like, wow, man, you're not gonna boot his door down and take his shit. That's bad business. So yeah, in the other car, it was Seth and Acid Joey, and it was me and Wildman. All dead now, I can't believe it. So I'm telling them to keep Wildman under control. Now, this guy finally shows up with a bunch of surfer dudes. Have you ever watched that movie, Point Break, with the surfer gangsters?
I haven't, no.
I've never seen surfer gangsters before.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, literally, yeah.
Surfer gangsters? So, all right, I'm just going to go in there on my own now. I've got however many thousands of dollars. And go in there, and there's all these surfer gangsters and Sol. And I'm thinking, if these guys could just take this money off me, and they're going to pull a gun, is the undercover cop's going to snatch you when I come outside? So I'm crapping it. You know, I'm not a tough guy. I'm crapping it. And he goes into a room and he pulls out the biggest bag of pills I've ever seen. I think it was Mitsubishi's from Holland.
Okay.
So I'm like licking my lips now. Like, can I try one of them? He goes, yeah, I'll get you a drink. I'm like, no, I just want to taste it. Because I've done so much ecstasy, I knew what a good pill would taste like.
Right, yeah.
And he's looking at me like I'm crazy. I just throw this pill in my mouth and I'm chewing this pill and tasting it. I'm like, yeah.
Is it proper, like?
Proper MDMA.
Yeah.
A pill should be 100, 125 milligrams of MDMA and clay.
Right.
Back then, like a beige, maybe speckled press from Holland. So I know this is the right thing. So he's counting the bills. I've got the pills. And I leave there and go to Wildman. I'm saying, yeah, it was a yummy pill. We're going home. This is going to be all good.
You're driving.
I'm driving. I've not felt my high yet. Yeah. I'm driving. We're all happy. 2 carloads of us. Man, I put DJ Sasha on, right? Have you been to LA?
I haven't, no.
I mean, Arizona's got wide roads, big motorways, freeways, but LA's got these like 8 lanes one way and shit like that, and carpool lanes and everything, and it's... So I'm like, I think I'm in the carpool lane. Remember I said about the furry seat?
Yeah. So basically,
I've got no hair, right?
Yeah.
So, carpool lane, DJ Sasha. I don't know if you remember, there's a CD called Renaissance from way back in the day, but Sasha was one of my all-time favorite DJs. God bless Sasha. In the beginning of Rave, it was all Sasha and Carl Cox. I'm like, got my radar detector on, going up to hundreds plus miles an hour.
Yeah.
all of a sudden I feel the ecstasy, right? The music starts to feed into your brain, and then you feel the fur off the seat. It just starts tickling my head, and then my eyes are like. But I'm compass mentis enough to drive, because whenever I raved in Arizona, when I raved in the UK, I did learn how to drive on ecstasy. This sounds terrible. Don't do this, kids.
For sure,
Don't do this, kids.
Yeah.
You're gonna end up slamming your car into a wall.
Yeah, definitely.
I just got lucky that I never had a situation driving, but I was driving home, listening to Sasha. We get back to Rancho Murieta, the apartment complex. You know, Acid Joey shows up, jumps through the window, all these other people taking 100 packs. It's gone within the weekend.
Right.
So I then make the fateful decision to abandon my slow and steady progress from age 14 in the stock market to go full-time in the party scene.
Full-time.
Yeah, and if you've got if you're a young person watching this and you've got a goal and you started it as a teenager, stay with it.
Stick with it,
because you will get the perseverance.
Yeah.
But if you just abandon it for fast cash, you will lose absolutely everything. You will give your family nightmares. My mum had a nervous breakdown. You will spend years in hell, and you will regret doing all this shit because of the harm you've caused society and your loved ones.
And Shaun's definitely someone credible. Like, I'd really take heed to his words, because obviously, he's been there.
I just want to say, because I feel like I get a bit giddy.
Absolutely,
when I'm telling some of these stories. I'm not glamorizing. I work in drugs education now. I spoke to hundreds of thousands of young people over the year, doing this for 10 years, and I'm restoring my karma.
Definitely.
I got a message from one kid saying she'd been so inspired by my talk, she went on to do a criminology degree at Winchester Uni.
Right.
And her family invited me to the graduation and everything.
Sweet, man. Congrats, man. That's pretty sick.
It's all about the karma.
Exactly. So if I can discuss the business a little bit. So now, as far as a pill, how much is a pill being sold for, I guess?
All right, do you want me to break this down? Because I think, I don't know if it was Lad Bible or Unilad or Vice, they did a video on me and they broke it down on a chart and did all the numbers.
Right. So,
but they got some of the numbers wrong.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Right, so, in the beginning, I've got a supplier out of LA. Mm-hmm. I could get them for 10 or whatever dollars.
A pill?
Yeah, they're going for 25, 30. But I'm not sat out in the clubs putting them out for 25, 30. I got people doing that. Mm-hmm. Figure out they're getting them from LA, right? Because my suppliers ends up problems with them. One of them became one of my best friends, DJ Mike Hot Wheels.
Right.
Still alive. Okay. Love the guy to death. Lived with him for 10 years in the UK. When I got deported, he got deported. And problems arose with those suppliers, including Hot Wheels getting arrested. So I send people out to Holland, because I can't go Holland. I'm an illegal alien. I can't leave the country.
Right.
But when I did expand into Mexico, I took that risk, but I carried that off. So I send people to Holland with testing kits from a website called DanceSafe.
Right.
DanceSafe, the pill, it turns like a blue, purple color in the kit. Because I'm thinking, if I'm importing, massive amounts of pills and someone dies because some shit's in them, that's going to come back on me. Definitely. Bad karma.
Yeah.
Nobody ever died off my pills. I'm not an advocate for drug use. I'm a realist. People are always going to take drugs. Harm reduction. Don't put shit out there that's going to kill kids.
For sure.
And it's because drugs are illegal that happens. It should be legalized and regulated.
I agree.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
So they go out, they get the samples, good samples, bring them back. And we're developing relationships now with the suppliers out of Holland. It gets to the point where I'm bringing in tens of thousands of pills per shipment, and we got the price down to like $2 or $3 a pill.
Fucking hell!
Yeah.
So you cut out the surfer gangster matey.
Yeah, he was gone.
So he was basically like a middleman sort of thing. So you went directly to the source from Holland.
To the source,
and they're selling you what $2, $3 a pill for. That's good business.
Well, I lose a guy. He's dead as well now, so I could say his name. Fuzzy Chris. He gets busted at an airport in America. Does a couple of years in jail. Wild woman. She comes to Phoenix, Arizona with them in vitamin jars or whatever.
Right.
They stop her and put her in a room and put them on the table.
Fucking.
And they ask her, what are they? She says vitamins or weight gain or whatever whatever it was. Weight loss or whatever. And they put her back in a case and told to have a nice day.
Fucking hell.
So we're thinking, right, we've got to get a different plan here. This is, we don't want to lose people. So I consulted someone who's an expert in these matters.
It's crazy how lapsed the airports were like back then, sort of thing. Like, I can't really imagine.
The DA wasn't hip to ecstasy.
Oh, right.
Bear in mind, this was the middle 90s.
Yeah, but I've seen stuff where, like, I guess even like kilos of cocaine from Colombia, people are putting it in suitcases and just going through whatever you call it, customs or whatever, like just like it's clothes in a suitcase when it's clearly not.
I've written 5 books on Escobar, and he had every method. And whenever they would bust a method, he was 2 years ahead of the DEA at all times. He had so many methods, diluting it into clothes and all kinds of shit.
Right.
Yeah, and wine and everything. So, Wild Woman, she had the situation. We lost Fuzzy Chris, and we consult someone who was an expert in these matters on trafficking routes, a lawyer. The lawyer says, you're not doing this right, Shaun. Start bringing them in through Mexico. So our new route, all right, so Arizona, Nogales is on the border, Mexico, Rocky Point, Sea of Cortez. There's an airport, Hermosillo. I think, the Tijuana cartel's over that way. But we end up okay with the Mexicans because the wild ones went down there and got everything all good. So I rented a beachfront condominium, Puerto Penasco, Rocky Point, for the wild ones. They went down there and got in with the locals. They're giving all the locals free ecstasy and free trips. Even the cops. It's so corrupt down there. In Mexico, the whole country is divided into what's called plazas.
Right.
So if you're running drugs for a plaza, you've got to bribe the local people. Otherwise, you're going to get jacked. But really horrific things can happen in Mexico to you. So you got to pay your way if you want to run drugs through Mexico. So that's what we did. But the wild ones paved that way for us. I mean, when I went down there, they were calling Wildman El Oso de Burr because of his fighting style.
Oh, so
and they were running the cartel.
Nacho Libre sort of thing. Is it that? Or
El Oso de Burr.
Right.
It means the Burr because he was built like a Burr.
Yeah.
And And when I went down there, the cartel were running Wildman around in like military jeeps and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and then taking me on rides because they wanted me to invest more money down there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how good they had it in the beginning. It does sour towards the end of it with what I'm down there. But so the pills now are going from Holland. A smuggler is getting them in the luggage, taking them by train to Germany or France. You don't want to just jump on a plane from Holland. You want to come from France or Germany or even London.
Right.
Fly over to Mexico City, then fly over to Hermosillo or get the bus to Rocky Point. We then bring them back down to where we are, transfer the pills into other smugglers then who are going to bring them back over the Arizona border from Rocky Point in like a SUV with University of Arizona sticker on it, diving tanks, all the tourist shit. And nobody ever got busted bringing those pills, driving them over the border into Arizona. If it was like spring break, it was a no-brainer because so many people were trying to cross the border.
Yeah. Pretty clever, man.
Yeah,
Pretty clever.
That's how we did it.
For sure.
But then, I mentioned Unilad or whatever it was, they had the graph.
Yeah.
So it goes from like $3 a pill, right, that I pay out. That includes, all the smuggling costs, legal costs when people get busted, that kind of thing. I then front them out to the heads of the factions of my criminal enterprise. So at the peak of it, I've got about 200 people working for me.
Yeah.
Each faction is divided into a head. We have crime family dinner every month for the heads of the factions.
Family dinner.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The head of the faction, depending on how many pills he's taking on credit, might get like 5,000 pills at 8 or 1,000 pills at 10. That's logged in the book, how much money he owes me. Then his middle people take them for 15 or 20, or, and then they're selling them for 25, 30. So the profit is broken down 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
It goes from person to person.
Pretty good business. Yeah.
So, when I say that 25 or 30 and I'm getting them for free, people think, well, you're making all that money, but you're not.
You're not, yeah.
There's a lot to it. So if I'm making 3 to 10, for example, 7, and I'm bringing in 40,000 pills in one shipment, it's 200K, but it's not a million like some people think.
Yeah.
The most we ever brought in was 40K in one shipment.
Nice.
And he brought them in computer towers. Computer towers through Mexico.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And as far as, obviously now at this point, it's safe to say you're on top of your game. as far as, the E thing, but you also started to do your own raves. You started to hire your own, I guess, security. You had merchandise sort of thing. And there was a thing where people had to buy tickets, I guess, to enter. And as far as the money you acquired from the tickets and the merchandise, you, I guess, took it to the bank and they would give you a check, I guess, in some way.
All right. So you got most of that right.
Okay, yeah,
so
cool.
When I was still a stockbroker and we were showing up at these raves, and I had my twin turbo Mazda RX-7, parked right up near the door, people were taking notice of my grandiosity, and I got called the Bank of England.
Okay.
So then the young people who had ideas to throw raves will come to me and say, Shaun, Bank of England, will you invest in my rave? And there was a clothing store as well that I invested in. No, two of them I invested in as well. So my relationships with the rave throwers began very early on. And all those little groups were competing to throw raves against each other. As we grew over the years, all those little groups were incorporated into my criminal enterprise. So they went from competing groups to working for me. So then we had our own raves, our own promoters, our own supply, our own security team. And if you came in and dealt and it wasn't from me, then that product got recycled to the house.
Right.
So those people get kicked out. They won't get handed to the cops. They would get kicked out. They would get their pills taken from them. We would just resell them and keep the money.
Sick.
And that was all going good till Sammy the Bull's enterprise formed.
Definitely. We're definitely going to get into that because, my interest in that alone is, through the roof. So talk to me about, you also put money into stocks and began trading.
Yeah.
And then you, I guess, flew people out and, put cars and houses under their names and stuff. Like you was pretty swift as far as, where you put your money sort of thing.
Yeah, I was in a nice house in, oh man, the most beautiful place I ever lived in my life. Sinvacus neighborhood in Tucson, Arizona, gated, guarded community. Moved up there after someone representing himself as the Bulls. They tricked my top sales guy into a nightclub, knocked his teeth out. We learned it was people who were representing themselves as Sammy the Bull's crew. Mm-hmm. And we had to take security precautions because this guy was right under me. My thing was, if someone right under me got hit, I'm next. Right. So I moved into this gated, guarded community, Sinvacus. Joe Bonanno is up there.
And this is Joe Bonanno, the
Joe
boss
Bonanno
of the
Senior.
Bonanno family.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah.
Miles down the mountain range is Paul McCartney.
Okay.
Yeah, near Mount Lemon, down that way.
These are your neighbours, like.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not going to say he's my neighbours. McCartney was miles down the road.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, the mountain range. Bonanno was in the neighbourhood. Right. Yeah. Our houses were so exclusive on this neighbourhood, you really couldn't see your neighbours properly because you had all this property around. Right. There's land around. Yeah. On this beautiful mountain, and the monsoon rain would come and the thunder and lightning, and the lightning would bounce down the mountain, bounce off the house, and a little waterfall would form at the side of the house.
Great scenery, like.
And these javelinas would come, and I'd go to the mailbox, and there'd be deer, and these lizards called Gila monsters, the size of dogs, would be on the road with all these dappled colours, red and pink and orange, and the cars would stop for them. Oh, honestly, and I was married to a woman who was doing lesbian internet porn when I met her. She was a bright woman, university, degree, but she was wild. I was attracting people as wild as me. Yeah. That was the peak of the mayhem. Yeah. I was living large, but also sowing the seeds of my downfall at the same time.
Crazy. Did you have any interactions at all with Joe Bonanno in particular? Like?
No, I had no interaction with the Bonanno crime family whatsoever.
Crazy.
My mafia interaction was with the New Mexican Mafia, who were the most powerful criminal organization in Arizona.
Are they known as La MA?
La MA.
La MA, yeah.
Yeah. I was introduced to them through Wildman, who introduced me to G-Dog. So we've got an apartment party going in that Rancho Murrieta complex. Right. I'm supplying the pills. G-Dog comes in, tall, ruggedly handsome Mexican-American guy. Right. In America, they call Chicanos as opposed to the Mexican nationals. Right. So he's a Chicano. He comes in providing the weed and the coke. So I get talking to him. Everyone's just chilling out, playing music, having a good time. Yeah. Cop walks in, says he could smell weed from outside, nobody move. G-Dog just pulls out a gun, the only one who's not leaving is you, motherfucker. Everybody run. I've never seen anything of this level before. This is Pulp Fiction, you know, to me. I'm like, whoa. We all just run off into the night, absolutely crapping ourselves. I've got an apartment nearby. Seth is living there, actually, my friend who's dead. And another guy called Fish, who was dealing pills for me. So we go in there. All hell is breaking loose. Everyone's running to the night. There's police sirens, helicopter, all this shit. And we're like, what should we do? Should we flush our pills? And we're like, oh, shit, you know, we're debating. Next thing, there's a knock on the French window. Bam, 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 bam. We think it's the cops. It's G-Dog. What we're going to do, let him in. G-Dog comes in. G-Dog schools us right away. Don't open the door if anyone knocks. Turn the lights off. Turn the TV off. They can't get a warrant that fast. They don't know where I am. If they come, just fucking nobody make a sound.
Right.
So we've not flushed our shit. We're still crapping ourselves. They knocked. We didn't answer. They knocked next door and they went on the way. I mean, the whole place was getting searched for a while, the whole complex, but
right.
They couldn't just bust in people's doors that fast. He knew that legally. So at the end of the night, I say to G-Dog, you're a bit hot in this area. Why don't you come to a house I've got in Phoenix? I take him over there. We're shooting pool. And in the end, he says to me, Shaun, because you and your mates had my back, me and my brothers have got your back. I have no idea what this means. So if you've watched my Locked Up Abroad episode, this is where I go over to the Chicano house.
Definitely.
All the lowrider cars are on the road. I go in, his brother answers the door, bald hair, looking up at me, like hard face, like, you know, who the F is this guy? Here's my English accent. He started buzzing a bit. He's like, damn, you talk funny. I guess you are from England, because they think, right, you might be a cop, but there's no way some, you know, from England.
Oh, mate, yeah.
In the end, he's like, come in and meet my homies. I go into the living room. All these massive Chicano gang members.
Yeah.
Wife beaters on, little, you know, little vests.
Tatted up, I imagine.
Tatted up, like these shorts just beyond the knees, all these chains and shit, all the prison tats.
Yeah.
Looking at me like they want to eat me. Slabs of crystal meth, cocaine, weighing scales, all kinds of weapons. I'm like, whoa.
Insane.
Biggest one swings a spoonful of coke into my face. Snort this. I look at G-Dog, he's like, yeah, snort it. Snort it. And then
they were trying to see if you're cool, I guess, at that point.
Yeah. And he was a hitman, actually. I learned later when they all got arrested. He was on a killing spree at that point in time.
Crazy.
But the brother takes me into a back room and he's like, yeah, I heard you got, you know, pills. We've not done the pills. We wanted to test your shit out and all this shit. And so they started getting pills from me. And I started getting a few things from them, including hydroponic weed, because they were growing it like in the closet.
Right.
And my girlfriend was a weed head, and she loved her weed the most.
Yeah.
So I built this relationship with like Emma, but I didn't know who they were. I only found out who they were a couple of years later.
Yeah.
I took G-Dog back to his brother's house. Whole neighborhood is blacked out. They've got light ones in the roads guiding the traffic. We roll up to the house, and a federal SWAT team has got them all with the handcuffs behind the back, bringing them out.
Crazy.
Headline news that night, all the mugshots, showed them all the real names. Says these are the New Mexico Mafia in Arizona, most powerful criminal organization, most dangerous. Tried to assassinate the head of the Department of Corrections, the head of the prison system. Trying to assassinate judges, police, witnesses, everything. And I was like, holy shit, you know. Every time I went over to the house, I was always in and out because I always felt there was a lethal atmosphere.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the level of what I'd been dealing with.
Definitely.
So people, you know, who when you're a young person, you think it's a buzz to be hanging out with these people, but you're actually putting your head in a lion's mouth.
100%. It's a big risk, like, yeah.
A little bit earlier, and I would have been in that federal SWAT team, mate.
100%.
Those guys, yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Big up G-Dog, I guess. Like
G-Dog?
Yeah, big him up.
G-Dog. I can't say too much about him because of certain situations. I did hear from him a couple of years ago.
Definitely.
He approved the stories that I put in my book Party Time, but he was saying, you know, don't go beyond those stories because there would be repercussions for him.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. So just something about myself. I have a very unhealthy obsession with the Italian Cosa Nostra, the mafia thing. I mean, I grew up on a lot of Italian movies and TV shows, Sopranos, you know, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Sammy the Bull. Sammy Gravano, I believe his name is. He just a bit of a backstory. He is as a very notable, notorious figure as far as the Italian American mafia.
Yeah.
Who's still alive today, you know. So obviously his association is with John Gotti. He was the underboss. You know, he started off in the Colombos, and you know, he got to the Gambinos and so on and so forth. So basically, he had a situation with John Gotti where he got arrested, and you know, obviously we know the story. So when he's released, he goes over to Arizona. And I guess one of his enterprises that he began with would be an ecstasy ring, because it's popping. Like, you lot have got it through the roof at this point, innit? So obviously he wants in, I would imagine. And I guess he was doing things such as you gave the story earlier, I mean, your second in command, I believe, he took him somewhere, so he got lured to a bar and he had his teeth knocked out or something.
Skinner, yeah, my top ecstasy salesperson.
Yeah, and I also heard you mention how he would also take people to the desert and basically give them one to the back of the head and sort of leave them out there, sort of thing.
All right, let me clarify a lot of things then on this, because I've learned a lot since I got out of prison, and in recent years I've just done a documentary that's about Sammy the Bull's ecstasy ring versus mine. It was released last year on Nat Geo. It's called How E Busted the Bull. It's a Narco Wars episode.
Right.
So I'll go back to, we start to see these guys pop up. Oh, first off, I want to shout out to Sammy the Bull and his son.
For sure.
I know Sammy the Bull's son, met him in prison, kept in contact with him. Shout out to you for not going back to prison, man. You're doing great. Shout out to Sammy the Bull. Huge fan of your channel.
You know what? His channel is something, to say the least.
Him and Michael Francis.
Amazing, yeah.
Michael Francis, absolute gentleman. They're my go-to Mafia channels out of America. And I support Sammy the Bull on his Patreon as well.
I love the stories, by the way, as well.
He's a master. Sammy the Bull is a master storyteller.
My obsession, as I said, it's crazy.
So I just want to show my respect to those guys for what they're doing.
For sure.
And there's no beefs between any of us. I've been on Francis's channel, and he's an absolute gentleman as well.
Oh, big up Michael.
Yeah, big up Michael. Yeah. So just to go over the story then. I've got the Arizona rave scene, ecstasy supply and lockdown. All of a sudden, these jock characters show up at the raves and the clubs. Big steroid heads, not dressed like us raver people. They're stepping on my toes. I'm wondering who the F they are. Mentioned that I got this wife that's, she was doing lesbian internet porn when I met her. One of her girlfriends that she got a bisexual relationship with starts dating one of these jock steroid head ecstasy dealers. Yeah. She says, Shaun, they want to meet you. They've got something to propose. I'm curious. Set it up. Because when you got all the locals locked down, you got a lot of information flow coming to you, but I couldn't figure out who these guys were. And he also had a sense of security in that I've got the New Mexico Mafia, have got my back. I've got my own arm to the teeth security team. So I get one of the Rossetti brothers, and he's strapped, and my wife, and we go to this bar in Tucson called Heart 5. I say to Rossetti, sneak in behind us. If they try and kidnap me, just open up on the motherfuckers. I don't mean wipe out everyone in the bar. I mean just like start blasting off and get me out of there.
Yeah.
Me and my wife are high on GHB and crystal meth and God knows what. Like I said, I'm just a nerdy business graduate. I'm about to negotiate something now. I need to get the false bravado up by getting high on drugs, because I had social anxiety when I was a young person. Yeah. And one of the things that led me to taking drugs, I almost got beat to death by some drunks. And when I was a party animal, it was all drug fueled. I'm not a tough guy. I'm the opposite of Wildman. Wildman opened these doors into this world. So I've got this false bravado now from crystal meth and GHB. So a guy comes out called the Spaniard, and he's like, English, oh, you know, we've heard a lot about you. We're going to take you into this back room over here and speak to you, blah, 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 like the VIP room, whatever it is. We go through just me, and he's got this big sidekick, like 6.5 foot steroid head blonde guy, like Dolph Lundgren, like muscles bigger than my head.
Yeah.
The muscle head yells at the whole room, tells everybody to get the fuck out, and tells whoever's on the sofa, get the fuck off the sofa, so we can all sit down. I mean, I gotta do something crazy, man. These guys are looking at me, you know, like I'm some kind of big name from, you know. So I remember my grandfather, Fred, he always used to squeeze my knee above, like about here. and make me jump. So as I'm sitting down on the sofa with these guys, I fucking just grab both the knees and squeeze them. So anyway, we sit down and I'm talking to them and they're like, English Shaun, you're a big name for the rave scene. We're moving a lot of product. Why don't you work with us? Hey, I've been doing this, for a number of years here now with the locals. I'm getting my pills from Holland. We've got a good reputation. You're getting these coloured pills. And the big guy jumps up and he's like, who the fuck are you disrespecting our pills?
Crazy.
And I'm like, what's his problem? And the other guy's he's a bit of a hothead, Shaun. And it was they were playing the good and bad routine on me. I did like the Spaniard. And he got the other guy to calm down. And before he calmed down, he said, who the F are you disrespecting our pills? Don't you know who we're working for?
Yeah.
Sammy the Bull.
Right.
One call to him and we can have you taken out to the desert. So a lot of people are putting Sammy the Bull's name out there at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get to his involvement because I now know what Sammy the Bull's involvement was, and it wasn't what people were portraying. I believe in my heart.
Right.
So we leave Heart 5. My wife is unconscious on the sofa. She's passed out on GHB. I'm changing the name for legal reasons.
For sure.
Rossetti picks her up. We're carrying her back to the car. And he's like, what happened? They're telling me they work for Sammy the Bull Gravano. He's like, that's Italian mafia shit. This is getting way too heavy, man. I'm like, well, if they're for real, blah, blah, blah. And, I'm wondering how long the piece will last. Because the conclusion of the conversation was, I told them, there's enough money to be made from ecstasy in Arizona without us having beefs.
Sure, for sure.
The problem is you guys are attracting too much heat. Before you guys came along, there weren't all these undercover cops driving past the raves, filming everybody's license plates. You guys are going around, your runners are going around, bragging you're the biggest ecstasy barons in the world.
And to throw a name like Sammy the Bull, I mean, he already has a background that's, police are gonna, you know what I mean? So it's like, why throw that name out there as well? It's like,
So they lit the place up ridiculous.
Sure.
And brought the heat.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning and the end for both of our enterprises.
Right.
Yeah, so the New Mexico Mafia got took down first, I think. And then it was the Gravano enterprise. And then it was my enterprise.
Right, so they got indicted first before you. I'm talking about the Sammy the Bull's faction.
And I was thinking, thank you, police. You've just eliminated my competition. Yeah. But that was naivety, because all those resources, and it was a multi-agency investigation that were on him, were then put on me, like the feds.
Yeah.
We're talking customs, the DEA, the state police, and multiple agencies.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about the time when they actually came for you and I guess booted down your door and said, listen, mate, hands behind.
All right, before that, I just want to clear things up with the Sammy the Bull story.
Sure, for sure.
So for a long time, I thought Sammy the Bull was running this ecstasy ring because everyone was throwing his name out.
Yeah.
But now I've done this documentary with, my story and Sammy the Bull's story that just got put out, Narco Wars. What I've learned is Sammy the Bull's, the extent of his involvement in the ecstasy ring was, the evidence against him was, his son called him in the night, Gerard Gravano, and they talked about putting money into gas, which means petrol in America, but it was code for ecstasy.
Right.
And the Bull invested money into the enterprise.
Right.
Now, the ecstasy ring had been started by a guy called Mike Papa, one of these steroid head guys. They had enforcers called the Devil Dogs, who were big guys who beat people up and barked and yelped like dogs while they smashed you.
Right.
And Gerard Gravano was then brought into this ecstasy ring by Mike Papa. So on the street level, it was Gerard and Mike Papa that were running it.
Right.
So they were the people who knew we were beefing at the street level. Sammy the Bull was not aware of all this shit was going on.
He was like a silent partner sort of thing.
Yeah, he was an investor.
Okay.
Now, I thought Sammy the Bull knew what was going on. I thought he was coming after me because people were saying he was coming after me. So I infiltrated their house. I had a stripper woman infiltrate their house, and she was going to barbecues, and she's describing all these Italian New York guys in the shell suits.
Yeah.
Going to these barbecues at the weekend and giving me the layout, and we did drive-bys of the house and everything. Just in case anything ever went down at my house, we knew where their house was as well.
Yeah.
My first actual meeting with Sammy the Bull's son was when the guards in the jail, we were all going court, and they handcuffed Wildman to Gerard Gravano. I think they just did it to see what would happen.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And that's how we met Gerard, and he explained his situation to us.
Right. So, okay, so as far as now, you know, the I guess the DEA or DA, I'm not too familiar with the terms. So now I guess they're coming for you now. So those events,
all those agencies are coming for me. It's a multi-agency investigation.
Right.
And it's May 16, 2002, when I've stopped the importation of ecstasy for a year. I've met a woman, fell in love with her, living in an apartment in Scottsdale, back to stock trading, going to the local college to study Spanish, and the SWAT team kicked my door down.
Right, so you actually quit for a year.
Quit importation. I was quit permanently. We were going to move to LA because we knew our history was such. There was so much heat. The lawyer who advised me on, female lawyer who advised me on bringing the drugs in through Mexico, she knew someone in the DEA. And she says, Shaun, they're coming for you. But I was also naive to the statute of limitations.
Right.
I thought they got to come in and find me with drugs. So if I'm not importing, there's nothing they can do. So even though the heat was building, if I'm not importing and there's no drugs in my house, what can they do?
Exactly.
But that's not the case. If you've got a drug transaction you've done with someone within the last 7 years, and that person goes to the cops and tells them, they've got a case against you without the pills.
Yeah.
It's called the statute of limitations.
Right.
So that's how they got me. They had 10 witness statements.
Okay.
And one of them was Skinner. It was my top ecstasy sales guy.
Crazy.
He ended up in a feud with Wildman to the point where he got so scared of Wildman because Wildman was going to kill him that he went to the cops. And during his feud with Wildman was in a federal deportation prison, and Skinner firebombed Wild Woman's place.
Crazy.
And the firebomb came through the window and just missed Wild Woman and almost set fire to her.
Crazy.
So Wildman's like, get me out of this deportation camp. I had a lawyer, an immigration lawyer, and he expedited his release. Wildman came back, and he was intent on killing Skinner. And Skinner got so scared he went to the cops and left the state. Wildman found out where he lived, and he's waiting in there for him. And one of my other mates, Joey Crack, who's also dead right now, R.I.P. Joey Crack. Joey Crack goes in there. Wildman thinks it's Skinner, grabs Joey Crack. It's me, Joey Crack. Wildman, don't kill me. And he told me when he became my cellmate, Joey Crack, because the Italian Mafia moved in with me. Joey Crack was like, I thought Wildman was going to kill me that day. He'd been up for like a week smoking crack and crystal meth. His eyes were completely red.
Crazy.
He had every weapon known to man laid out in Skinner's apartment. Golf club, hammer, assorted knives, fucking things, pliers, fucking everything.
Insane.
Yeah. So that's why that's how the whole thing went down. It was a dispute, an internal dispute between Wildman and Skinner.
Sure. So okay, so your door's been kicked in, you're handcuffed, and I guess the lead investigator, so whoever that is, had some words for you. Wow.
Oh yeah. All right. So I'm on the computer, back to stock market trading.
Right.
Bam, 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 bam. Oh shit. Jump up, look through the people, blacked out. Thinking, what am I going to do? Let them in? Or, you know, are these people police? Or are they people pretending to be police come to rob me? Go to the window. Entire complex is surrounded. Police cars. Oh, shit. Go to the bedroom. What we're going to do, we're talking to my girlfriend. We better let them in. Halfway through the living room. Boom! I'll never forget it. It's implanted in my... Door just goes, bam! Just bounces off the wall and flips and does all this shit. Hands above your head, don't fucking move! Get on the ground! Fuck. And you're looking at them, man. They're all kitted out.
Yeah.
But you can see their eyes through these like plastic protection things.
Right.
And you can see in their eyes that if you fuck up, your life's just over in a second.
Dead,
so they're all, get on that fucking ground. Hands above your heads, don't move. So you just drop like a sack of spuds. Anyway, the detective, who I learned was my nemesis, he yanks me up by the handcuffs. He's like, English Shaun, you're a big name from the rave scene. You know, we've finally got you, blah, blah, blah. I start screaming to my girlfriend, I'm exercising my right to rage silent love. And they end up throwing me down the outdoor stairs.
Oh, you serious?
Yeah, and shipping me off in a car. Because the New Mexican Mafia had schooled me on police etiquette by now. Remember earlier I was naive, driving around with drugs over the speed limit, but we were a streamlined operation by the end of it. And they said if anything gets ever gets heavy,
right,
contact this lawyer, and that lawyer ends up forming a united front for us, and gets my sentence down from 200 years to much less.
Yeah.
I fought the case for 26 months, but like, the Takashi thing, like he rolled over right away.
Yeah.
He had the money to get a high-priced lawyer to form a united front for those guys.
Yeah, I know.
I've done videos on it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
This is where he's messed up. This is where he's messed up.
I mean, that guy, no comment. But
he blew his reputation.
Yeah, no comment. Yeah. No comment. So as far as the indictments now, Sammy the Bull's faction, I guess, were indicted first.
Yeah.
And they had 57 people on the indictment, and 57 cooperated.
Yep.
Now, your indictment is over 100 people.
We got multiple people getting arrested in groups.
Right.
First group was like 12, 13, but over the months there's more and more groups.
Right.
Which ends up over 100, and only 4 cooperated.
Only 4 cooperated.
Yeah. I fought it for 26 months. I was the last man standing.
Right.
And it was, believe me.
So you took it to trial? You didn't cop out or nothing?
No.
All right.
98% of the cases in Arizona go to plea bargain.
Right.
If you go to trial, heaven help you. A plea bargain is not snitching.
No, it's not.
A plea bargain is just, you get up in front of the judge, you say, I'm guilty to this charge, and he sentences you. Yeah, because I hadn't cooperated though, they pulled out every dirty trick in the book on me over the 26 months.
Yeah.
And if you read my book, Hard Time, it details it.
Definitely will, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you're facing 200 years. And
200 years, and that's in the second year.
This lawyer got it down to what, 6 years?
No, let me go back. So first indictment, right? I've got, 10 to 12 charges. They all carry like 5 to 10 year max. And they also slap serious drug offender status on me, which is 25 to life.
Is that Kingpin, like the CC, Continued Criminal Enterprise?
So it was the state who prosecuted me, not the feds.
Right.
So it might be equivalent to federal Kingpin stuff.
Yeah.
But that's how they describe it under Arizona state. It's a serious drug offender status. So in the beginning, I'm facing life and possibly 100 years. A year in, I asked for my bail to get reduced at $750,000 cash only. They doubled my bail to 1.5 million and moved me over to max security. That's when my blog starts out on max security.
Yeah.
I'm in max security for about 14 months. And when they doubled my bail, they also doubled my charges. So now I've got 20 plus charges.
Crazy.
All of which carry a maximum of 10. So if I go to trial and lose, now I'm facing 200 years. So we've paid the New Mexican Mafia lawyer 100 grand. He gets it down to 9.5 years in the end.
Who is this? Is this Albert Krieger or like Johnny Cochran?
His name's Alan Simpson.
Right.
The prosecutor was joking that he should get the patch for the New Mexican Mafia on his arm.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly, without Alan Simpson, I'd still be in prison right now.
For sure.
Yeah, because the prison system preys off people who've got no money and no resources and throws them away for life.
Yeah.
And that became part of my activism later on.
For sure.
But right now, I was just fighting for my life. And the most stressful thing is not the violence, the gangs, and all that shit and the cockroaches. It's thinking you're never ever going to get your life back.
For sure.
If you faced the possibility of never getting out of prison, it's a unique thing, and it puts a pressure on your brain that led to me to contemplating suicide. I was planning on killing myself a few times. I'm not asking for pity. I'm just trying to lay it out, the psychological process of what people go through.
That predicament is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, experiencing that, yeah.
So getting sentenced to 9.5 years is one of the happiest days of my life.
Sure, I mean...
Like I saw I was getting my life back. Now this lawyer, the New Mexican Mafia told me this guy is a loophole lawyer. And he loopholed it. And the prosecutor, my nemesis, the detective, he almost tried to stop it.
Right.
In Hard Time, we describe what happens at my plea bargain thing hearing. The prosecutor, I think, has agreed to it, but it comes out in the hearing that because of I'm a non-violent first-time offender who's not an American citizen. This was the loophole.
Yeah, and you was an illegal at the whole time doing it as well, yeah.
It comes out that I only have to serve 50% of the balance of my sentence that I've not served yet. So I've done 26 months, but now I'm going to the Department of Corrections to serve the balance. It comes out that I only have to do 50% of what's left on the 9.5 years. The detective finds out and goes apeshit. And my sentencing is almost cancelled. And my family have flown 5,000 miles to come and visit me.
Crazy.
Because I come to this hearing and speak on my behalf. Anyway, the judge takes the prosecutor and my lawyer back in his chambers or whatever, we're all crapping ourselves. This has been one of the most intense days of our lives. I've been crying my eyes out listening to my dad say he would rather go in jail for me than me do the sentence.
Crazy.
This is how intense it was. They come back and they say the plea bargain is going to be upheld. And then that was it. I was just, oh my God, I felt all the stress and tension of fighting my case for 26 months just fucking shoot out my body. And
Crazy.
Felt like I was high.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess, okay, so you took the plea. They gave you the 9 years?
9.5.
9.5. And
Of
basically,
which I had to serve 6.
And what was the actual charge like that you...
So I was convicted of using an electronic device in a drug transaction,
Right.
money laundering, and what was the other one? Was it something to do with another drug transaction, I think? So the money laundering was my wife took a check for drugs from one of our dealers. I was convicted of doing a weed deal or running a weed business, which I hadn't been running. My lawyer said, just take it, because running a weed business is better than the other drugs you're involved in.
Yeah, for sure.
So the call was, have you got the green drink? That's all I said. And that got me
sentence.
That got me convicted of running a weed business, which I wasn't running.
Crazy.
And then the other one was using a phone to do electronic device to do a drug transaction.
Right.
Yeah. So there was 2 drug transactions and the check for the drugs.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Okay, so Shaun, prison. So yeah, deep breath and for sure. So
we've all seen The Shawshank Redemption, American History X.
Absolutely.
You think that's a movie?
What's the other one with the gangs and that?
It's real.
Blood In, Blood Out.
Blood In, Blood Out.
Vatos Locos.
Yeah.
For sure.
So in Arizona state, it's all racial gangs.
Right.
So as soon as you go in, because I'm a white guy, it's the neo-Nazi Aryan Brotherhood decide who lives and dies in my race. They decide the rules.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So the Nazis come up to me right away, and they've got like swastikas.
What are they? The NLRs? The Nazi?
No. Aryan Brotherhood.
Okay, ABs.
Yeah. ABs come up to me right away. It's covered in swastikas, lightning bolts. One of them, early on I saw a guy, he's got Hitler on his chest, overlooking a gas chamber of Jewish people dying inside the gas chamber.
That's disgusting.
It's hardcore. They got tattoos on their heads, their faces. Get in that cell over there. And you can't say no to these guys, or they're just going to smash your head into the wall. So walk into the cell. They come in behind me and they're like, what are your charges? Now, earlier on, you go through this part called the horseshoe and you see a judge and you get your charges and it's on a little printout from the jail. So I put, I don't understand what my charges mean at this point. It's vernacular I'm not familiar with.
Right.
Criminal syndicates, conspiracy, enterprise. I don't know what the hell that means. So I give a really stupid answer. I say to the ABs, I don't know what my charges mean. Just trying to be honest, Now they got me up against the wall about to smash me. What do you mean? You don't know what your charges mean? Are you a chomo? You a chomo? I don't even know what a chomo is at this point.
Yeah, neither do I until, you said it,
yeah. So I pulled out the charge sheet. My Banged Up Abroad episode doesn't show this. It just shows them walking out the room, but they read my charge sheet. They see that I'm on for drug offences. They see my bail's $750,000 cash only. They're buzzing. Like $750,000. God damn, who did you guys kill? Are you guys the Mafia or what? I'm like, no, Raves, ecstasy.
Right.
Then they explain all the rules.
So how many of them are in your cell? or the cell?
I think there was 3 of them.
3 of them. Cool.
Yeah.
And they said chomo. Chomo would mean child molester.
Right, yeah, because some charges are KOS.
Right.
Such as child molesters.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're buzzing, I guess, when they've seen your charges, like sort of thing, yeah.
I saw what happened to an undercover child molester later on.
Oh, really?
But yeah, so they're kind of buzzing. They're kind of curious about, I'm from England. I tell them I've got my co-defendant is with me. He's a massive maniac called Wildman.
Right.
They're looking at me like I'm full of shit, but I could tell they're going to find out the truth. And the truth is he was in another tower. And I think when they found out that Wildman was with me, there was a certain amount of respect conferred. And I was safe in that environment, even though it was mayhem, absolute drug-fueled insanity. People were getting smashed every day.
Right.
Got used to the sounds of people's bodies getting thrown around, smashed into the walls, heads getting smashed against toilets.
Right.
Watched fights where people's teeth would just get knocked out in front of me and bounce on the floor. There was a mentally ill old man who wouldn't stop rambling all day. I walked right past him and blood just squirted out the back of his head. I don't know what the gang members had done to him.
Crazy.
And on and on and on it went in that place. And, you know, like I said, I'm not a tough guy. I'm off the drugs now. I'm in the jail. My social anxiety is kicking in.
Yeah.
I'm hiding out of my cell, reading and writing. Don't want to get involved in the mix.
Crazy.
But you got to represent.
Yeah.
If you're a white boy, there's a thing called a white boy meeting.
No way.
So like say the head of the race gets moved, gets rolled up or something, and they got to vote on a new head of the race.
Right.
The Nazis come to your door, white boy meeting, 5 minutes, cell 9, get your ass over there, and you got to vote on a new head of the race.
Crazy.
All kinds of shit like that, all kinds of politics.
What else is discussed? Like,
So I was my co-defendants were from all races.
Right.
I meet a guy in there called Sniper. He's a La Victoria, Tempe, Arizona gang member.
Okay.
I click up with Sniper and I'm working out with him. He's a nice guy.
Right.
The Woods, the Nazis, the white boys, roll up to me. They're like, hey, Wood. I'm like, what's up? They're like, can we have a word? I'm looking at Sniper. Sniper's looking at them.
And what's Sniper? What's his racial background?
So he's a La Victoria gang member. He's a Chicano.
Chicano, right?
Yeah, Mexican-American.
Cool.
He's looking at me, looking at them. He's like, yeah, go talk to your people. So they take me in the cell. They're like, look around the day room, Wood. I'm like, yep, looking around the day room. Just see any of the other white boys working out with the other races? Nope. They're like, you got a lot to learn, Wood. Now go finish your workout. And I go back to Sniper, and oh my God, that was, I couldn't do that anymore. Sniper was cool with it though. He understood more than me.
Yeah. I want to throw a name out there. Hopefully I pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, go for it.
Joe Arpaio?
Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Arpaio, right.
So he prided himself on being America's toughest sheriff.
Yeah.
But he was the architect of a house of horrors. And his mum died giving birth to him. I tried to understand how he could be so inhumane. And I don't think he had that maternal bond from his mum. So he created this house of horrors that he was proud of. And this isn't like paedophiles getting beat to death. This is like mentally ill people getting murdered by his own guards and him promoting them afterwards. This is how sick it was.
Crazy.
I had videos of that on my channel, but we had to take them down. They had millions of views.
For sure.
So he's got this place that's just drug and gang infested mayhem, all run by racial gangs. You got the guards smuggling the drugs in and visitors bringing the drugs in, and the majority of the prisoners are injecting heroin, doing crystal meth, just running wild. I was classified to a medium security remand called Towers. You've got a guard tower, a fishbowl at the top of it with 2 guards looking down on 4 different housing areas designed for 15 people. But they've got 45 people in each. Each cell's got 3 people in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get a 4th person on the floor, triple bunked. So it's just absolute mayhem. The whole day just revolved around getting the drugs in.
Right.
And it's so sad to see people, and a lot of them I learned, because when I was raised to think, a heroin user is like a troll under a bridge, lock them up, throw away the key, they're out thieving all day. But when I heard the sad stories, they're fucking molested as kids.
Yeah.
They've seen their parents die, they're thrown away, they're raised on the streets. And they're on the drugs because they've never been given any help in life.
Do you know what? Like, the whole thing with drugs as well, it's like, for you to want to, I guess, consume a certain hard drug, like, you must be running away from something so insane. Like, that's something I've come to learn over the years, I think.
If you've been raped as a kid and you've not been given any help, you've maybe been put in a state care home where they're pimping the kids out and the staff are fucking molesting them too.
For sure.
Your head's fucked. So you end up on the streets taking heroin because that's the strongest drug to knock that out of your consciousness.
For sure.
And then to finance the heroin, you're doing crime. And if you're a guy, you're robbing, you're burglaring, you're stealing cars, armed robberies. And if you're a woman, you're doing sex work, or you're dealing drugs, or you're shoplifting. And I've interviewed hundreds of people now on my YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
And I've come to the conclusion it's the same path. The root cause of crime is childhood trauma, especially paedophilia. And that's why these paedophiles must be stopped, but they're not. They get slaps on the wrist. And who gets put in prison? The people who are involved in drugs. I'm not making excuses for what I did.
For sure.
Low-level drug users. I saw black kids, Mexican kids getting 2 to 5 years for weed possession because they had prior convictions. And the prison got $60,000 per person per year. It's an industry, man. The prison industrial complex is an industry.
Talk about it.
And it must be stopped. And that's why our mission statement on our YouTube channel is end the war on drugs, start the war on paedophiles.
I just want to say this as well, just to build on what you're saying, because I completely agree. It's like, you know, you give a drug dealer whatever, you give him the kingpin charge, whatever. But, you know, when it comes to the transaction of drugs, this is consensual. The person coming to, and not to excuse it, not at all, but I'm saying you have to understand that this is consensual. There's crimes where consent is not even there. Like you said, child molestation, rape. And the time people actually serve for these kind of crimes are so, it's minute compared to that thing. And it's like, this disparity is, to me personally, that's crazy. You know, I mean, just
absolute insanity, and it's all about the cheddar.
For sure.
The private prison contracts in the tens of billions a year right now.
Yeah.
Human beings are commodities. You've got these super warehouses where you've got them all on bunk beds, and the overhead is way down, and the politicians are getting tens of millions a year to keep the contracts rolling. It doesn't matter which party wins the election. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
And the activists, there's an army of us online, but we're up against that wall of money.
Definitely.
And that's why these fuckers are campaigning free strikes laws. If you steal a pizza in California, you're going to do life. What the fuck is that?
The Clintons come up with that, innit?
Oh my God. They were selling the blood of prisoners.
Yeah.
The Clinton crime family was selling the tainted blood of prisoners to the worldwide market when they knew it was tainted. And there are people still dying to this day all over the world.
Sure.
When Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas, those contracts were handed out. They knew it was tainted. Arkansas was the last state to stop tainting it because they wanted to squeeze as much money as possible for the rich people to take the poorest, most vulnerable people's blood.
Yeah. Back on track. So Joe Arpaio, murderous lunatic who ran the prison.
When I was in there, there was 50 million in lawsuits paid out, and there was 50 million pending. And I mentioned about the mentally ill people who were murdered. One of them came in and they were beating him and tasering him, and his face was turning blue. A female guard tried to stop it. She stopped beating him, his face has turned blue. They pushed her off, they kept beating him. The inmate started yelling, he's already dead, why are you still beating him? And they continued to beat the corpse after he was already dead.
Insane.
People can research these cases online.
Sure. I mean, that's how I know this fella, because obviously I've heard you previously mention the guy, so I thought So you're there for 26 months and then you go to a max, I believe?
All right, so I am in the Maricopa County jail system for my first 26 months. My first year, I'm in Towers Jail, medium security. I then asked for a bail reduction. They doubled my bail to 1.5 million. They doubled my charges. When your bail goes over 1.5 million, you're sent over to maximum security. So a year in, I go to max. And God bless my cellmate in max.
God bless.
He was a crystal meth chemist. And I roll into max security. I know the prison walk now. I know the lingo. And it's a bunch of, woods. I'm just calling them woods. The white guys. I roll over to that table doing the walk with the prison lingo, thinking they're going to accept me. And they saw through my act. They saw I was an educated man. So they're like, where'd you roll in from, Wood? I'm like, Towers Jail. Why'd they move you over here? You know, my bail bond went up to 1.5 million. 1.5 million, you know, what are you in for, Wood? I'm like, ecstasy, conspiracy, because it was my conspiracy charge that was at the 1.5 million. And just looking me up and down. And they won't let me sit at the table with them. There was a limited room, but they let me stand there. And then I went back to my cell. And the head of the whites, I think it was Bullet at that point, he comes up into my cell later on with all his legal paperwork. So he's seen through my act, my convict act, and he's seen I'm an educated person. Because they're thinking, how can you be a resource
of benefit
to what they're doing?
Right.
So if you're a legal, if you've got an education, you can read their paperwork.
Yeah.
A third of them can't even read or write. So
Illiterate,
they're thinking, how
basically.
can you fit in? Are you going to be a victim, or how can they fit you in?
Crazy.
And also, I started a class for the Mexicans in max security. So it was the same structure, guard tower, 4 living areas, but there was 30 people in each living area. So there was 10. The Mexican gang had about 10 of them, and they were all murderers. One was a midget. And I was doing this class for them, teaching them, how to write home in Spanish, because they couldn't write home in Spanish because they worked out in the field. And the ABs had a problem with me doing that because I was
about to say, that definitely didn't sit.
So they wanted to smash me because I was helping the Mexicans. But my cellmate, who was the crystal meth chemist, he had dealings with them from the streets. So he got that squashed. Yeah, honestly, so many amazing people came into my life to look out for me, including 2 Tonys later on, who was an associate of the Bonanno crime family.
Definitely going to get into that for sure. Now, I want to say, like, overall, right, as I said, I'm a fan, so I've seen your talks, right, where you speak to people and you're describing sort of prison.
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about the conditions, the roaches, and then particularly there was, I guess, a tarantula or spider or something.
Brown recluse.
Right, so, and obviously if it bit you, like, insane, right? So yeah, talk to me about the conditions a little bit about prison. The heat, and there's no aircon.
All right, so it's so hot in there. Like, there's what's called a swamp cooler. The only day that our swamp cooler ever worked was when the county health inspector came in the building, and then the next day it went back to the broken setting. We'd ask the guard, what's wrong? It's broken, we're going to get it fixed. It was always, it's broken, it's going to get it fixed, until the county health guy came in. So, Arizona, Sonoran Desert. On the UK temperature scale, it's almost 50 degrees.
Insane.
And the American temperature scale, 120 something degrees.
Fahrenheit and Celsius.
Yeah. So you've got these black and white B-stripe outfits, your pink boxer shorts, your shower sandals, and it's so hot in there, you're melting down. Your skin becomes so sweaty and itchy, you get these bleeding skin infections and bed sores.
Yeah.
Problem is, if you scratch yourself, because you're sweating constantly, outer layers of your skin turn soggy, so you get itchy, scratch yourself, clumps of your own skin detach under your nails.
No,
You're stinking like a wet dog.
Yeah.
You got to take showers every so many hours just to stop yourself from stinking.
Sure.
This is how sweaty it is.
Sure.
So that was one thing, was the heat. They were using the heat as a form of torture. Then there was the insects. You got a right to live in a non-insect infested environment.
Right.
I mean, the cockroaches were out of this world. We'll get to that. I could do 30 minutes on the roaches because I lived with them for a year.
For sure.
But the spider bite wounds started to appear when I was in my first year in Towers Jail. The brown recluse comes out at night looking for food.
So it's called the brown recluse, you called it.
Yeah, that's what it is called.
Right.
You don't ever see it. It just comes out at night. You roll around in your sleep and you touch it, and then all you know is you wake up the next day with little pinpricks. Now, in the following days, it kind of swells up and the pus starts to come out, and the venom eats into your flesh down to the bone on some occasions and causes what's called a volcano lesion.
Right.
Yeah. So you got these people with these flesh wounds. I mean, there's guys in there being in shootouts, and these spies are putting bigger holes in people's bodies than bullets. Yeah,
crazy.
We go to the guards. You got to get into the doctor, and the guards would mostly say the same thing: it's the policy of the jail not to treat insect bites. You put yourself in here, you deal with it.
Makes no sense.
So there was a guy called, I'll name him Alejandro. Alejandro was a youngster. He'd done a drive-by shooting. He was a naive kid, but man, what he'd done, he'd opened up with whatever, and he shot a bunch of teenagers. It was a rival thing, street gangs and all this shit, but he was a Chicano.
Yeah.
And he was massive.
Yeah.
He was literally, he must have weighed about 400 pounds, and he'd been bitten on his back. Oh yeah, the other thing about him was, one of the victims that he'd shot, it was a girl, it had gone through her body, come out of her breast, and took her nipple off.
Crazy.
Yeah. And one of his victims was on life support. So every night he would come out and watch the news in the day room. And if that victim died, he was up for the death penalty.
Crazy. Every
night he thought it might be announced he was up for the death penalty.
Crazy.
So yeah, he got a bit on his back. He was rolling around on his mattress. He was so big, he filled the whole space.
Crazy.
And like, what we're going to do about it then? Because the guards wouldn't help him. So in the day room, we arm locked him on both sides. We had this Russian guy, Czech guy I played with, Jordan Todorov. Oh man, I had a great time with him. And Jordan would come up behind him and massage the wound. And all this pus is running down his back.
Oh my Lord.
And I'm helping mop it up with the toilet paper.
Crazy.
And this is going on and on, all this pus coming out, man. The big guy, Alejandro, sweat dripping off his ears, his chin. He starts dragging everyone across the day room.
Oh, mate.
We need more guys to hold him. And in the end, what Jordan did, what he said, because he'd been in the military, he said he knew how to dress wounds. We collected the little salt packets and put salt on the wound to reduce the bacteria.
Oh, mate, that pain, that's indescribable, almost like.
Later on in Max Security, I started this thing called Sufferer of the Week. So if you had money on your books, you could get like peanut butter or a Snickers bar or some peanuts, and we'd put it with the guys who had money on the books would create a little prize or contribute something to the Sufferer of the Week. And this one guy got bit on his thumb, and every couple of days it's changing colours, and he's going to the guards. He's like, take me to the doctor. No, they won't take me to the doctor. Eventually, it goes like purple and black, and then eventually mould started growing on his thumb.
No way.
So they took him, and he comes back with his thumb cut off. So he got awarded Sufferer of the Week. He said it was all worth it just to get the Snickers bar. That's how hungry we were.
Insane. So if I can also touch on now, as far as like fears, right, of prison,
Fears.
on a sort of a common consensus sort of level.
Yeah.
Rape, right?
Oh my God, man.
So
what about Shawshank? I could be a friend to you, the sisters.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had the screwdriver saying, you know, you're gonna do such and such. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, crazy film. But this was something that was so rife as far as where you were in the prison.
Under the Prison Rape Elimination Act, you now have to go to a rape class in American prison to get taught how not to get raped.
I was going to touch on that. So I remember you mentioning that there was even courses on how not to be raped.
Yeah, it's a class.
A class. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so insane.
So, you know, we just get these notifications on our doors, a paper slip saying you got to go to the rape class. We're all on our way to the rape class. The prisoners are joking and they're going to go, you know, kits and shit like that to rape each other. And we get there and there's a video and there's predators in the day room. And the young people come in and they're hungry. And if they take food from the predators then come back on and say, look, you got to pay for that food now. Well, how am I going to pay for that food? I've got no money. Well, if you've got no money, you're going to get stabbed up. What can I do? Go in that cell over there and do whatever that guy says.
Fucking hell.
It's brutal, man. That's called becoming a prison punk or getting turned out. And once that's happened, they rent you out as a prison prostitute.
Crazy.
Conclusion of the rape class was to stop rape, you got to report it. If you report anything, it's snitch, KOS, kill on sight.
Absolutely.
Nobody reports a single thing. So the reason they do the rape class is because there's so much rape, they got to show the public that they're doing something. It's a box ticking thing. So they can say, you know, hey, they may be raping each other, but at least we show them the rape class. We've done our thing. What are we supposed to do?
It's trying to tick a box, basically.
Yeah. And you know, I never saw any rapes.
Right.
But I met victims of rapes.
Right.
And one of them's got the most harrowing story I've ever heard in my life. And that was the story of a transgender person. Right. I'm going to call Shira. And Shira was 6.5 foot, very charismatic. She had a tough boyfriend when I met her because if you're trans, you're just going to get gang raped or else you got to get a tough boyfriend to protect you.
Right.
And it was back in the day when the worst possible things happened to her, way before I'd even entered the system. So Shira came in, not as the trans person that I saw, but as a person who was big and weightlifting and clicked up with the AB.
Right.
It's blood in, blood out. These gangs use people up and brutalise them.
Definitely.
So I said, we were writing a blog to raise awareness of prison rape. This is how this happened. I said, what happened? The first time was a gang rape. They beat me up, knocked me unconscious, raped me while I was unconscious, and shoved things inside my body. I said, what did they shove inside your body? A broomstick.
Fucking hell.
I said, well, how did you know if you were unconscious that they were raping you? She said, when I went to the toilet after, I could tell by what came out. I said, well, what did you do after the rape? I sat in my cell waiting for the scars to go away. The same thing happened. They raped me. They used me up as a prostitute and a punk. There's nothing you can do. Oh, she was moved, but the same thing happened. There's nothing you can do. You can't go to the guards because then you're a snitch, kill on sight, or the guards will throw you in a dungeon for months or years and say it's for your own protection. You can do absolutely nothing other than kill the perpetrators.
Yeah.
The victim is labelled a rat, a punk, and considered less than human.
Yeah.
I said, well, how did you finish this? How did you stop it? I took the abuse for as long as I could and I started fighting. I won most of the fights. When I stood up and told them I didn't care about getting killed, it stopped. You've got to be ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Shira hadn't told me the truth as to how she stopped the gang raping business because she didn't want to get in trouble for what she'd done.
Right.
I had a cellmate who had a problem with, and he knew a lot, and he told me what had actually happened, what Shira had actually done, which Shira confirmed when I confronted about it later.
Mm-hmm.
Shira, the trans prisoners, they get very familiar with anatomy because that's how they perform. The orchiectomy, I think it's called, cutting off the testicles. So Shira decided that the next time a gang member came to gang rape her, she was going to pluck his eyeball out. So they came again to rape her. First member of the gang to rape her, plucked the eyeball out.
With like hands, like
Yeah, I didn't even think that was possible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But when I did karate after I got out of prison, for almost 10 years, as you rise up the ranks, you learn the strikes, and it's called bird beak strike. And it comes out and it dangles on the optic nerve. And when that comes out, the fluid from the brain can leak through, or it can cause major problems. It's not necessarily just going to go in and perform.
That's some like Mr. Miyagi shit.
Yeah. It's proper damage. So she did that once, but they came back again, and she did it again.
What? Another eyeball, like
another eyeball out, and then she was classified as extremely dangerous. So they moved on to some of her friends.
All right.
One friend, they gang raped. They took a light bulb, shoved it in that person's backside, and made bets on who could smash it first. And that prisoner committed suicide afterwards.
Insane.
Another one was gang raped. They got a shovel from the work crew. They held him down, cut his head off with the shovel, and when the head was finally off, they picked it up and put it in an area of the prison where the rival gangs would see it to make the point they were the most violent and ruthless out of all of the gangs. Now, bear in mind, this was before cameras. This was back in, I don't know whether it was the 70s or the 80s, wherever it was. Arizona prison back then, Florence prison, was classified as the most dangerous area of real estate in the entire country by 60 Minutes, the TV program.
Yeah.
The guards, if you were messing up, the guards would just take you out to the desert and just put one in your head.
Crazy.
This was the good old boys days.
Yeah.
So this is how barbaric it was at back then. Yeah.
Insane. Nah, those stories, yo, I've not even got any words, to be honest.
Well, Shira's dead now, and I'll just tell you the rest of the story.
Yeah.
So Shira, after I was released, decided to do the orchiectomy. So, like I said, they study the human body. They have a Mosby's medical dictionary, I think it's called.
Right.
So Shira wakes up one morning, drinks a cup of coffee, has no painkillers whatsoever, grabs a felt tip pen and draws lines on her scrotum. The testicles are on branches called the vas deferens. So with a razor blade, she slices open the scrotum, gets one of the testicles, starts cutting through the spermatic cord and gristle to sever this testicle. Now, there's in my book, Prison Time, I put the whole letter in. It's like a 10-page letter. She describes this in minute detail.
Crazy.
And where she's got it tied off to stop the blood comes undone. She's starting to feel this red hot pain now. Getting her body's overheating. She gets one off. The other one must have known what was coming because it hides.
Well, the
second testicle hides up inside her body. It elevates itself. She's now got her hands inside her body looking for the second testicle.
Oh, my Lord.
She said she can feel her guts. She didn't know whether it was intestines or what, but squishy organs and stuff.
My Lord.
Yeah, the details. People read Prison Time. They say they have to stop when they're reading this section. So she's got her hand up in here. Where she's got it tied off to stop the blood comes undone. That starts spraying now.
Oh, my God.
Across the cell. She's bleeding to death. They managed to get a helicopter to hospital, just in time to save her life. So she's got one off. She's on suicide watch for a year, and she cuts the other one off. So she believed that she was a woman trapped in a man's body.
Yeah. And
to feel more at peace, she's got to stop the testosterone and get estrogen smuggled in. Yeah, but I met another prisoner who'd cut both of them off. And she was the closest to a woman that I saw in the men's prison. Yeah. So in Arizona, it's what you're born with, is where you go. And she'd done it. She got them both off, tried to cauterize the wound, I believe, with a cigarette lighter. But the wound had got infected.
Crazy.
So that's how she got caught, because she had to go to hospital for the infection. Yeah. But the mental strength, God, if you read this whole letter that Zena wrote, the mental strength and determination you must have to do that without any painkillers. Yeah.
I mean, I'm in pain just listening to that, to be honest with you.
Everybody hears that story.
Honestly, like
this, yeah.
Fucking hell, man. Hey, crazy.
There was another prisoner, Sarah Jane Baker out of the UK, who did it.
Yeah.
She was the longest ever serving trans prisoner. I interviewed her on my channel. She's got some stories. Yeah.
Cool. So, getting off that topic a little bit. I want to name drop a couple of people again. So you mentioned them previously, but 2 Tonys.
All right. So 2 Tonys. Yeah. So I go to a certain prison. It is medium security. And this is about my 3rd year or so in. Ended up with a cellmate who's a serial home invader torturer. He doesn't like me from the get-go. He gets his mate to attack me. I managed to get moved out of that cell. And my new cellmate is a guy called Long Island.
Right.
And Long Island, he knows about my beef with my previous cellmate. And he introduces to a guy who can protect me. He doesn't say I'm going to introduce a guy to protect me. He's just looking out for me. Because Long Island has come from a high security prison where his neighbor was a guy I'd done business with on the streets. A much feared guy who robbed drug dealers, who Wildman had kind of put straight by moving in with him. Wildman, if we had problems with people, we'd just have Wildman move in with them. You didn't have to beat him out, he'd just move in with them. People were so scared he'd move in with them. So Long Island's like, I'm going to introduce you a guy to play chess with. Who is he? 2 Tonys. What's he in for? Well, he left the dead bodies of rival gangsters from Arizona to Alaska. He's doing 140 plus years. I'm like, hold on a minute. If I beat him at chess, what's going to happen to me?
Yeah.
Anyway, he brings 2 Tonys down the stairs. He looks like Uncle Junior at this point. He's done so much time.
Oh, from The Sopranos.
Yeah. We're playing chess. 2 Tonys is speaking his mind throughout the game. I beat him quite quickly. And at the end, he says, Shaun, how come you beat me so quickly? I said, you speak in your mind throughout the game. It's like showing someone your hand in a game of cards. And he slaps his head. He goes, oh, me and my big mouth. But he was testing me.
Right.
He says, Shaun, I like you. I think you're an honest person. Would you be willing to write my life story? because Long Island had told him that I was doing this blog thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, I'd be honoured. And once Two Tonys took me under his wing because he had the respect. That's the thing, isn't it? Prison survival advice,
Right.
lay low, figure out who's who, get in with the right people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I felt honoured, and Two Tonys is dead as well.
God bless. God bless.
I became like the son that he'd never had.
Right.
And when we were at the fence, when he was saying his final goodbyes to me, and I saw this guy had killed so many people, just tears start to run down his face, man.
Crazy.
Oh man, I miss him honestly. But he always said, I wrote his life story, Two Tonys, the Mafia philosopher, and he always said, Shaun, you know, just think of me from time to time, and if you're having a Guinness in a pub over in England, just raise a pint to me.
100%.
The spirit of Two Tonys and Wildman are protecting me to this day.
Big them up. Yeah. And just a bit of a backstory. So he has ties with the Bonanno crime family.
Oh yeah, so Two Tonys was a Mafia associate for the Bonanno crime family.
Sorry, continue.
So Joe Bonanno Sr., give him his due before he got run out of New York.
Yeah.
He was the longest serving head of the Mafia Council, and he never got whacked. He lived in my neighborhood, Sinvacus, Tucson. He died from natural causes. But as drugs came into the scene, and there was the old tradition and the new tradition, the new factions were rising up, and he got run out of New York. A lot of beefs over that.
Yeah.
He ends up in retirement in Tucson. When it was all kicking off in Tucson, Two Tonys who'd started out in Detroit was out in Tucson, and he came under Bonanno's son's control, and a guy
Bill Bonanno.
Bill,
yeah,
and a guy called Charlie Bat Battaglia,
right,
who was Two Tonys' boss in the beginning, who Two Tonys was in awe of.
Right.
And Two Tonys describes this, you know, he said if he's going to cast for the Godfather movie, Bat Battaglia, Anthony and Cleopatra cigar in one corner of his mouth, and you know, all decked out, and the hearse greased back and everything. And he would always call Two Tonys and his crime partner Sal Spinelli to these meetings and assign them work. But years later, Two Tonys turned the tables on the Bats, and that's how he earned the name of the Two Tonys.
Right.
Because Bats, I think it was Bats and Jimmy the Weasel had whacked Two Tonys out of LA.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that was one of their first whacks. And when Two Tonys turned the tables on Two Tonys, his crime partner said he felt the spirit of the Two Tonys above the table. Yeah.
What's crazy is that obviously, again, unhealthy obsession, right, with this whole Mafia thing. When you mentioned it previously in another interview that I saw, I thought you were referring to Tony Mirror, who's known as Tony Mirrors, and he's associated with the whole Donnie Brasco, Joe Pistone thing. I don't know if you're familiar. So I thought, oh, him. But then obviously he got murdered. Obviously he got whacked, let's say, because obviously the whole Donnie Brasco thing. Tony Mirrors, I'm talking about. So Two Tonys, upon doing my own research, like, he's an official guy sort of thing. Yeah,
and he was under the radar. He showed me all of his charges, and he showed me all of his... There was some media stories. If people read his book, The Mafia Philosophy, he's got a classic story of his own, because he went from the Bonanno crime family to setting up the first nightclub in Alaska with his Mafia guys who came out there with him.
Yeah.
And they ended up in a war with a biker gang.
Crazy.
And then there's all kinds of murders and shit going on with them.
Yeah.
And then he's got to leave Alaska in a hurry. He goes back to Tucson, does more murders, and then he ends up in the prison system. And he's got all kinds of crazy stuff going on with the Aryan Brotherhood as well.
Crazy. Cool. So another name for yourself, T-Bone?
Oh, T-Bone, man.
Yeah, tell me about T-Bone.
Right. I see a new arrival on the yard, and I said that the guy with the Spaniard was big. This guy was tall as him, but even more muscular.
Right.
Probably one of the most muscular, like a Mr. Universe looking guy.
No way.
And he was a black guy.
Right.
So because of the rules of racial division, he's not someone I would have just walked up to. And it was like some out of a Conan movie. And he hears that I'm doing the blogs, and he comes to my cell door one day. And I'm thinking, oh shit, what's he going to sweat me for? Well, I was just writing on my little stool. And there's a presence at the door that is so big, it completely blacks the sunlight out in the cell.
Right.
And I turn around and there's T-Bone just stood there with his trousers on. Entire body covered in scars. Not little scars, like horseshoe-sized scars from all his life and death prison fights. And his US Marine stuff. He saw action in the US Marines.
Right.
Saw people get slaughtered. And he was traumatized from that. And I'm thinking, oh shit, what's he going to sweat me for? And he's like, are you from England? And he starts talking about the Roman Empire. And he's like, yeah, you guys fought the Romans, you fucking island monkeys. I want to go to England and see Hadrian's Wall. And he was fascinated by England, and we hit it off.
Yeah.
And then we started to do blogs with Two Tonys and T-Bone and She-Rat and all these people. And one of the early ones that T-Bone told me was, going back to the prison rape thing, when he was at the walls in Florence, like I said, Florence, one of the most deadly prisons in prison, 70s, 80s. He said that there was a smell on the run from so many dudes getting raped. He said, like, you see these little white dudes and the big guys kissing them like they were women. Yeah.
Crazy.
And he said there was just a smell of crap from them getting raped. And I was like, this is disgusting. He said it was even worse than that. He said they would shove things in their asses. And like what? It was like shampoo bottles.
Yeah, this is some weird obsession, by the way, as well.
Shampoo bottles, shanks. They'd shove all of these things in their asses.
Oh, so like getting them to hold stuff, basically.
No, just fucking raping them with them.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. That's weird.
It's just pure animal barbarism.
Fucking weird.
And I just want to add as well to the viewers of this, all of my prison experiences and jail experiences, most of them, I was writing them down.
You was documenting them.
And it was all getting put on the internet in real time.
Yeah.
And people can go back, because I'm just trying to remember all this now off the cuff. People can go back to John's jail journal and see these things time-stamped and read all the details as I was putting them online.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would strongly recommend as well,
Yeah.
I co-sign,
Because
definitely
people
do
say,
that.
how can this be possible, these things.
Yeah.
He's got to be fucking, yeah.
So with T-Bone specifically, there was a time where he had a problem, I guess, with the white racist sort of clique or whatever, and he got into a mad fight with one of them or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Good one.
Good one. Talk to us about that.
All right. So the serial home invader torturer I ended up in a cellmate with, who got his mate, this huge guy, to attack me when my parents had come to visit me for Christmas. Let's call him Bud, and we'll call the big guy Ken.
Right.
The torturer was Bud. So Bud, he was breaking into people's houses, tying them up with duct tape, and taking ball-peen hammers to their kneecaps. Bud was on transport one day in prison, and a chomo was in a holding cell, and he did a kangaroo court, and they decided to stab the fuck out the chomo.
Crazy.
And to all the other people watching, Bud took his knife to the eye, placed it on their eyeball, and said, I will find you wherever you are in the prison system if you snitch me out for this. And your fucking eyeball will be taken out and I will fucking eat it. You give it back to me and I'll fucking eat it. He showed me all the police paperwork because he got an extra case for that.
Right. Because
it was a chomo, they didn't really do much to him. It ran concurrent. So I'm just setting the table for what Bud was like.
Yeah.
Ken was like big biker guy, a handlebar moustache, massive, covered in tats, gang member. And he was on like so many different medications. He was just fucking mental. Because, you can't write about prisoners doing things bad to you. Yeah. Because snitching them out. Yeah. And he was telling me to put it out there. And he was like, they all hate me. Yeah. I fucking loved it. So, I got moved out of that cell. Bud's throwing batteries at me. I meet Long Island as my new cellmate. Introduced me to Tony. I'm all right after that. But is it Ken? Yeah, they're punking. No, Ken's cellmate, another big biker guy called Cannonball, is punking out a youngster. So in the library, which is like an outpost for blowjobs, I went up there one time. There's nobody in there. And Cannonball is punking out this youngster, getting a making him suck his dick.
Yeah.
So I walk in, see this, I walk out. At the same time, Cannonball and maybe Ken, was it Ken? Yeah, no, Ken, sorry. Ken is putting word out that T-Bone's a snitch.
Right.
That's
a serious accusation, especially in prison.
In prison, you got to do something about it, otherwise then you're a punk. So his own race will say, look, you got to handle your business.
Right.
Man, what happens is, this is karma. So, T-Bone claims when he tells me the story that he's walking past the cell and he hears him saying he's a snitch. In the cell is Bud, Ken, Cannonball, and my cellmate Long Island. This is how I get a first-hand account of this.
Right.
Long Island tells me everything. So this is impressive because 3 big guys. Bud's a fucking psycho, but T-Bone's so big and fast from the Marines. T-Bone walks in, and Cannonball says to Ken, "You calling me a snitch?" And Ken just answered him back in a bad way, and T-Bone's just fucking, I don't know how he punched him, but
right,
bam, so fast, Ken is knocked unconscious. His head hits the toilet so hard, it knocks the water out of the toilet. And there's blood going everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's fucked. T-Bone then just swivels because Bud is getting up to do something about this. And Cannonball's kind of froze. And my cellmate's just watching it. So T-Bone then just looks at Bud like this big Mr. Universe guy. Like, I'm going to fucking eat you, basically. Bud freezes. The other guy's frozen. And there's a little moment where, you know, something's going to happen, but they stop at that. And then Long Island comes back to my cell and she tells me Ken just got smashed.
Crazy.
Because Ken had smashed me.
Oh, really?
On the way to a visit with my mum and dad.
What for?
Because Bud had put him up to it because he wanted me out of his cell.
Right.
Yeah. They tell you when you go in, prison is like high school mentality with deadly consequences.
It's interesting you say that, yeah.
So I'm walking to the visit happy as can be because the 2 things you look forward to the most are your visits and your mail.
Right.
Ken comes up behind me, bam, bam, starts kidney punching. All prisoners start watching to see what my reaction is because you got to hit back or else you're a punk.
Sure.
Or else you're going to get preyed on, you're going to get rented out as a prison prostitute. But if the guards see it, they can add more time onto your sentence.
Right.
So do you want to risk getting more time onto your sentence or do you want to risk getting gang raped and fucking rented out as a prison prostitute? You got to hit back.
For sure.
I started doing kicks and punches, but it was like hitting a big bag of cement.
No way.
He knocks me down, he's smashing me. A guard starts coming, fortunately, and he gets up. But I go to the visit. Mum asked me what's wrong, and I can't say. She had a nervous breakdown on my situation.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you served the 6 years, and then you got released, deported. And looking at you today, you know, a very successful online personality. I mean, you've got your show doing incredibly well. I mean, I'm a fan. You know, I'll definitely tune in.
Thank you.
So, upon your release, how did you get to the point now where you're Mr. Shaun Attwood? Like,
so my writing got smuggled out of the jail back in 2004, I think, in the maximum security Madison Street jail.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of my activism.
Yeah.
When I got moved over to Florence Supermax after I got sentenced for a few months, that is when the media picked up on my blog, the BBC and the Guardian. They ran excerpts about living with the cockroaches. In 2007, before I was getting released, my dad started the YouTube channel, Shaun Attwood. It's under if you want to subscribe. And we just posted videos every now and then, but I was mostly focused on the writing, getting my books out.
Yeah.
I've written 15 books now, and I've published about 20 for other people, other prisoners.
For sure.
And about 5 years ago, I started to focus on YouTube. I went on True Geordie podcast, did bits about making a murder, and it started to get more viral.
Right.
And it got more and more viral as I started to do Epstein. I've written a book, Who Killed Epstein, Prince Andrew or Bill Clinton. But my channel got terminated twice because of that.
Serious.
Yeah, so I had to de-escalate all that and go back to just doing the prison and the crime stories and my true crime podcast, which comes out. We do a couple of those a week, long form.
Incredible, man.
But I feel blessed.
Yeah.
All these people helped me when I got out of prison. It's my karmic duty now to help guys who've got out of prison, help them get their stories out there,
For sure.
help them get their books out there if that's what they want in life.
For sure.
But my first prison podcast guest, Jamie Morgan Kane, he served 34 years in California prison for a crime he hadn't committed. Found out he was born on the Isle of Man. He wasn't even an American citizen. He'd been sold as a baby to an American family.
Insane.
Got deported back to London. He didn't know anybody. Through the podcast, he got a book deal with Mirror Group Books. He's got his second book about to come out.
Right.
And he's just been granted Isle of Man citizenship. We took him out there for the first time. He's speaking to the prison and to the people. You could see he was at home.
Yeah.
He's set now to relocate to the Isle of Man. Because so many beautiful people have come forward to help him because they've heard his story online. That is the power of YouTube and podcasts.
Definitely, man.
So it's my responsibility to use that platform to help other people. I harm society importing drugs. I deserve to get the punishment I got, and I think I just got just the right amount before anything more would have got me a bit institutionalized. So now I go into the schools and scare the living daylights out of them with these stories.
Mate, I mean,
in the hope they won't get gangster-ritis.
Crazy, man.
And I got that word from Two Tonys. Thank you, Two Tonys. He's coined that word, gangster-ritis.
Yeah.
Don't get gangster-ritis, kids. Keep your day jobs.
For sure.
Do your studies.
For sure.
Because it ends in the prison, police, death, mental hospital.
100%.
And the government and the private prisons, they want young people out taking drugs.
For sure.
The contracts are in the tens of billions a year. They look at you as suckers. They can arrest and send away for massive amounts. And your mums will have nervous breakdowns. My mum had to fly 5,000 miles to visit me.
Crazy.
She's outside for hours in the desert heat. They've got sniffer dogs on her ass and they're doing all this crazy shit. And then you come to the visit and your mum is sat there looking all crumpled over. And you think that your fucking lifestyle led to that decision, that you created your mum coming out like that. You've made her have to go through all that, man, and it's something that you have to live with for the rest of your life. So think about your mums and your family members.
Absolutely.
It's all so glamorized and everything, but think about your mums and your family members and all these kids with the knives and shit, man.
I concur. I absolutely concur. Yeah. Think about these people, man. These people matter. Your mothers, and you know what I mean. But above all, I have to big you up, Mr. Attwood. I absolutely have to take my hat off. Like, it's incredible, like where you are now, and obviously the platform you have.
Thank you.
And as I said initially, you have a story, and now you're helping other people tell their story.
Yeah.
And boy, have you got some stories with some people, like sort of thing.
No matter what you've been through in life, you can turn it around and you can harness that dark energy.
You heard it from the horse's mouth
and put it into positive things.
For sure.
And you may think that you're effed because you've been in the system.
Yeah.
But you're not. You can endure the hardships of life, and it's given you a unique skill set, and it's given you a character and an intelligence.
I'll big you up, man.
That can lead to succeeding in many things in life.
I'll big you up.
There's many different types of intelligence. Forget about academia.
For sure.
For the people coming from prison and the streets, they have a unique intelligence that can set them up for life, but they've got to harness it into the right direction.
For sure.
Away from gangsteritis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, a bit of controversy now.
Yeah, go for it.
So, you're obviously a huge online personality, and that obviously comes with its sort of difficulties, I guess. So there's a few people that you're sort of clashing with now, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So there was a bit of back and forth with Mr. Marvin Herbert.
Oh my goodness.
So we've had Marvin on here like recently, and obviously he said what he said. So if I could ask you specifically, what's the actual issue between the pair of you? Like, what's actually going on between you and Marv?
All right, let me lay this down.
Please.
There's many different versions.
Yeah.
And just like last month, I woke up and everyone said, "This hitman's on his way to your house to get you."
No, I see the videos, bro.
Like, so I live streamed it. I am waiting for you, Marvin.
Absolutely, yeah.
Got 1,000 new subs that day. Thanks, Marvin. All right, so I watched Marvin on YouTube. I saw how emotional he got when he was talking about his dad.
For sure.
He's been shot 5 times.
For sure.
This guy's lived a life. He's been the real deal. So, like I said earlier, my mission is people like that, bring them in, interview them, whatever opportunities open up, help raise them up in life. So I went to Marvin with a pure soul. It was agreed that through a mutual friend, Christian, KRN TV, I was going to interview Marvin. Marvin was going to interview me. We had a fantastic day. By the end of the day, he was talking about me doing his book, publishing his book. I've got a book publishing company. If you're out there, you've got a story, contact me, true crime, life stories.
Absolutely.
Now, on the drive home with Christian, Marvin gets on speakerphone and he doesn't know I'm in the car.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's asking Christian if he'd sneakily recorded things that I'd said off camera. And I'm thinking, something's not right about this guy. But I gave him a pass. He's been shot 5 times. He's been through things.
Yeah.
I'm still going to help this guy. Helped him get a gig on Lad Bible or whatever it was, Unilad, that got him loads
Lad
of
Bible,
views.
yeah, definitely.
Then all of a sudden, there's a strange thing in the UK that the American audience won't be familiar with called the podcast wars, whereby several individuals who I helped decided that because I had the most subs, if they could destroy me and my reputation, they could take over. It's like prison mentality. You see that these dramas play out.
Yeah.
They're not collaborative people, they're competitive people.
Makes sense.
Marvin went on the other side of the podcast wars, starts putting out videos about me. Attwood's full of it. He's only done 1 night in jail. Wasn't even convicted of ecstasy.
Yeah.
I don't think he can read, to be honest, because my conviction's all over the internet. Maybe because of his eye in that situation. I'm not disrespecting that.
Yeah.
But maybe he can't read. And you know, Wildman's a figment of my imagination, all this kind of stuff. Wildman was poorly at this time. He only had months to live.
Right.
And Wildman was felt very disrespected that Marvin was saying these things about him. If Marvin had got in the room with Wildman would have just sat on him. You know, if he'd started disrespecting him like that, it would have been over for him. So the beef starts heating up. You know, Marvin's saying all these things about me, all these crazy things. And it got to the point then where last month I woke up and Marvin's saying he's on the way to my house. And I just live streamed it right away.
I mean, it was interesting to watch. Being on the sort of the viewing end of it, like, I mean, like what's happening here sort of thing.
If people are going to kill you, I'm not denying that Marvin was a formidable character back in the day.
He definitely was.
Definitely was.
Sure was.
Definitely was.
Yeah.
I've been in a room with him.
Yeah.
He's a tiny guy. He's been shot up 5 times. His physicality is not what it was. I keep myself in shape.
Yeah.
I have no fear of fighting Marvin one-on-one.
Right.
If he's got a weapon, maybe a different story. But I think people with weapons don't announce on the Instagram that they're coming to your house.
For sure.
So I was waiting.
Initially, he said that he was coming over to do a protest, though, I believe.
Of course, if you're going to put that out there.
Oh, that was code words sort of thing.
We know what a peaceful protest means.
I feel you.
In the underworld.
I feel you.
Yeah. So anyway, he was a no-show. He was a no-show.
Right.
That day, I learned what the beef was. Marvin put out videos saying a lot of things about me that were false. I'd let it ride for a year. I interviewed Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power, late last year.
Great book.
Told him about the podcast wars. I said, look, these people are damaging my reputation. They put these videos out. I've been silent about it. He said, Shaun, they're going to keep doing it unless there's consequences. So I thought the podcast war thing was over. And what does Marvin do in December? Puts a video out saying I'm a police informant.
Yeah.
I'm not charged with ecstasy. What was it he said? I was...
something to do with...
fraud. I'm a fraudster.
Yeah.
I'm a fraudster.
Yeah.
And I'd snitched on ecstasy dealers. And he's got my plea bargain. He knows all this. I wish he would put my plea bargain online. Because he's obsessed with it. He says it's going to show that I'm a snitch. Anyway. He then announces he's going to interview people out of America that are going to blow my story away.
Yeah.
So he gets a guy on his channel who's been emailing me for a year, who's a ecstasy kingpin, right?
Right.
And this guy's emailing me. I'm saying, why don't you come on my channel? And then all of a sudden he starts sending me nasty emails. And I'm like, are you having a bad day or what? And he's like, you're not an ex-kingpin. I'm going to get your plea bargain. He's one of them.
Yeah.
I think people can't comprehend that because I've got this baby face, boy next door, that I've done the things I've done. But they've never been in a room with Wildman. Remember, I was the brains, he was the brawn.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah. So this little guy goes on Marvin's channel and must be smaller than Marvin. Marvin's tiny. So I'm watching him on this podcast.
I mean, he was kind of tall when I sort of met him. Like,
Who was?
Marvin.
No.
Yeah. I mean, you're a tall lad yourself, so obviously I get it.
You're tall.
Yeah, I know.
Tall.
And he was
tall.
like, he was pretty tall for him anyway. But anyway, sorry.
All right.
Anyway.
Anyway. I can't remember Marvin as tall unless he's shrunk in my imagination.
I might be the afro now. I don't know. Like, yeah.
All right. So where was I? So he says, yeah, he's going to get all these guys from America on to blow my story up.
Yeah.
So he does. He starts getting guys from America. He's got the little guy who is in the feds in Florida.
Yeah.
All right. So he's now saying that in Florida, here's what happens. You can talk to the other races. Mm-hmm. If you get a plea bargain for 9.5 years, you've got to be a snitch. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to blow holes in my story, right? They're trying to say that the Florida system, the feds, is the same as the Arizona state system, which is on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
The federal system is completely different from the state system. And this is like comparing prison in one side of Europe, Turkey, with prison in France, for example. All BS. Then he gets another guy on and he does the same thing with him. So I'm thinking, Robert Greene, there's got to be consequences. Marvin's made up all these lies about me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to file a complaint with YouTube. Because if there's defamation, there's defamation. If there's copyright, there's copyright. Mm. So I file some complaints with YouTube. No intention to take his channel down. Gave him one strike. Thought he would learn his lesson. Gets another guy on, disrespecting me. Gave him a takedown notification on the second one, which he did not comply with, so he got another strike, which is on him. I had no intention of striking him. He ends up with a third strike that had nothing to do with me.
Right.
So the day he was coming to my house was because he'd received notification of channel termination, which I had no clue he had received.
Right.
Now, I've got this live stream going saying, I'm waiting for you, Marvin. I'm finding all this information.
I was tuned in,
all these strikes, and so now I'm in a position to reverse my strike to save his channel. So I've got a moral dilemma. All these people in the live stream are saying, you know, he's effed you over, let his channel go. And I'm thinking a man's channel is his bread and butter. He's built this up. He's trying to do the right thing. My philosophy is to help prisoners.
Yeah, for sure.
If I let his channel go, this goes completely against what I stand for.
Yeah.
My heart was open, even though he was talking all this shit about Wildman, even though he'd left voicemails that I cannot release to the public because he would probably go back to prison saying what he was going to do to me and my family. I've got those recorded.
Really?
Yeah. Even though he was putting all this pressure on me and being like completely horrible and making me think the right thing to do is not help him in this situation. I thought, it's a cry for help, really. This guy's struggling mentally. He's been shot up. His brain might not be all there. I can't do this to him. I'm going to reverse the strike and save his channel. I didn't even get an apology. Yeah.
That's interesting.
But that's his business. I realize in the pyramid of the podcast wars, there's people above him who won't say things about me now because they know their channels will get struck and there will be consequences because they're lies. And his channel was used as cannon fodder by these people. He probably doesn't even know that he was manipulated into that position.
Right. That's it.
Yeah. So I've got no beef with Marvin Herbert right now.
Right.
I think the right thing for him to do would be to acknowledge that I saved his channel and apologize for saying lies about me and disrespecting Wildman, because he was laughing at me on the phone that Wildman had died. Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
That is very rough.
Yeah.
and also apologize for the threats he made to my family and my parents, and saying that he was going to go all the way. Yeah, so that's really wrong. If he does want to keep the BS going and escalate, then I will release those messages he has left. And he's telling me he's got TV deals and book deals and all kinds of things. If I release those messages, he's going to have problems. So yeah, so stay away from it, Marvin.
Yeah, pretty sticky. And I do want to big up Marvin Herbert as well. And obviously, you know, I'm someone, I've got to remain impartial, but hopefully, I hope you guys can sort of like, you know, reconcile and, you know, just get back to how it was.
I hope so too, because all the intermediaries I'm dealing with now are telling me word on the streets is he's hiring young people, because he's got my address, he's put my address online, he's hiring young people to go there and do something. I mean,
the addresses and stuff like that, I feel like that's just off limits, like that's not really...
Yeah, well, he put my address out there. Yeah, so I was doxxed.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I also want to touch on another individual. Obviously, you've had a bit of a code name for him for a while, but Mr. James English, who I'm also a big fan of, by the way. And I was talking to you earlier, that's how I came across yourself, obviously, when you was on the platform. So, I mean, you and James are probably the heavyweights as far as the UK online sort of media circuit is concerned, as far as podcasting, interviewing, in my opinion anyway. And when and how did that go sour, if I may ask?
All right, so he was coming up on the interview scene, and he's been to prison himself.
Yeah.
So again, my philosophy is to collaborate and help people.
For sure.
I went onto his channel. We were sharing guests. Went up, met him up in Glasgow, Edinburgh, wherever the hell it was, and I was praising him to the high heavens. If people go back and look at my early interviews with people who both interviewed like Blink, Darren G, I'm saying, check out James's interview with Blink, check out James's interview with Darren G, and subscribe to his channel.
Yeah.
So when the Podcast Wars stuff broke out, it was a collaboration between James, and I'm not going to say the other podcast, a much smaller podcast out of Liverpool.
Right.
Like I said, you know, in prison, Pablo Escobar said, envy kills more people in Colombia than cancer. And the people I've seen are divided into two business mind frames. There's collaborative people and there's competitive people. So all along, I was helping all these people. They were seeing me as the biggest guy on the block who they wanted to take over competitively.
Sure, that makes sense.
So they struck about 2 years ago, and just started putting videos out saying I was a paedophile, I was a police informant, I was gay. I mean, James English on his channel put a video out of me dressed up as Jimmy Savile, saying I was gay and fruity, like that's a crime, you know, homophobia right there. I don't think that's allowed on YouTube. And on and on and on and on it went. And like I said, I didn't respond. And Robert Greene says, you've got to start showing them the consequences, Shaun, or they're going to keep doing it.
Interesting.
So even to this date now, I've got, you know, I've interviewed 300 people on my true crime podcast. Outside of that, hundreds more. Must be getting up to 500 to 1,000 now of the guests I told you in the beginning.
Big yourself up, yeah.
I'm getting guests up and down the country contacting me to this day saying, James English and these other people are contacting them, telling them I've got paedophile charges in America.
So they're trying to blackball you.
Yeah, Darren G. Thank you, Darren G, because you exposed all of this when we reunited.
Big up Darren G.
Darren G showed me the screenshots from James English telling him I had nasty charges in Arizona, and duped Darren G into just exploding on me on James English's platform because he didn't have the balls to do it himself.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of mind games and manipulation going on. So until James stops pulling all these stunts from behind the scenes and trying to block my podcast guests from coming on, this war's not going to end. I thought it ended last year. And next thing, I've got Marvin Herbert showing up at my house. And I've got all these podcast guests telling me they're getting told I've got paedophile charges in Arizona by James English and these other characters.
Crazy.
Absolutely crazy, yeah. And they think these, you know, they think they can just say these things and these people aren't going to call me up and tell me.
For sure.
They're not the brightest people.
insane. I mean,
but these videos English has put out have reached 2 million people.
Yeah.
Saying that. So I've got threats to this day, including lunatics contacting my mum because of this motherfucker. And he's saying he's doing his podcast for his family. Well, he needs to think about the harm he's caused my fucking family. Because he kicked this off, and I know he's taking hits now, and that's going to fucking continue until he backs off. And the only way to reverse it, English, is to put a video out saying Attwood is not a paedophile. He doesn't have paedophile charges in Arizona. He's not banned from schools. He's told everyone I'm banned from schools. He's not gay, and he's not a police informant. Until you do that, James, and reverse that with your viewers, this shit you've started is going to continue. And you may think you could just fucking do this and walk away from it, but you're going to continue to take hits. You can de-escalate this, get that fucking apology video up. I've asked for it many times, and you've doubled down. If you want to continue to take hits, bring it on.
Some strong words, yeah. I mean, it's really real, I guess, from what I've just taken. It's actually really, really...
When it affects your mum, how fucking low is that, man?
For sure.
When a guy out the blue tells 2 million people you're a paedophile, you're a snitch, and you're gay,
and that accusation...
and then lunatics are contacting your family, and your mum can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
Think about that, you fucking coward.
Crazy. I mean, that accusation alone, that's not something to throw around.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, insane. And again, hopefully this can be reconciled. And, you know, as I said, I'm a fan of...
He's not man enough to reconcile, Mo.
Yeah.
I've offered the olive branch multiple times.
I know.
And he doubles down, puts a new video up, and adds more bullshit. He said I was in a child abduction conspiracy with a guy called Wilfred Wong on the last one.
Yeah. I mean, insane to say the least. But,
he just will not accept that he was wrong to the public because he knew he was wrong from the get-go.
Yeah.
You do not go for 10 years on YouTube and have your books published by Random House and have 2 documentaries by National Geographic and a documentary by Vice without them going through all your fucking paperwork and seeing you are not a paedophile or a snitch.
For sure.
He knew that.
Yeah.
But he thought, if I go with this and repeat it to so many people, I'll knock this fucker down and take over the game. And he's telling everyone I'm the biggest in the fucking podcasting world. Bigger than Joe Rogan! He starts every podcast out with Boom, You're On, which Joe Rogan was doing 5 years ago.
Yeah, as I said, you know, I admire James, I admire yourself. And
you admire James because he's copied everything I've done. He's used my technique. Everything I've done, he's watched me. His podcasts used to be an hour long. Now they're like 2-3 hours because he knows. Get the questions out like Attwood, sit back, let him talk. It's copied my entire business model.
Yeah. No, I'm Shaun, big up yourself, honestly, man. And
look, my ego's not the fucking like the Grand Canyon like it was anymore.
Totally.
I'm a yoga guy.
I fully respect
and when your ego gets out of control like him, this is what happens. You start wars and you don't see the blowback that's going to happen on yourself. I know the hits he's taking.
For sure.
I know he's fucking regretting it. And he has the opportunity to end it by doing an apology video because he started it and that is his social responsibility to do that. Doesn't matter what troll channels are saying. If you've got a big platform and you put videos out to 2 million people, that's a whole different ball game.
Totally different, yeah. Well, Mr. Shaun Attwood, what an experience, man. Honestly, truly amazing to have this conversation with you. As I said, I'm a fan, I'm a huge admirer, and you obviously have amounted so much success, and I'm not surprised because obviously you are who you are. I wish you much success for the future and much love, honestly.
Much love and respect to you,
really
Mo.
Appreciate your time.
You know, it's such a good vibe in here.
Come
and
on,
I appreciate it. Give me a hug, man.
Come on, bro. Yeah.